What happens when the most dangerous man in Manhattan discovers a broken woman hiding in the shadows of his empire? Tonight, Lena Hayes is bleeding in a storage room, her dress torn, her body shattered, trying to survive just one more hour without losing everything. But Adrian Voss doesn't ask permission to save her. He doesn't wait for the law to deliver justice. And when she whispers the name of the man who destroyed her, the entire city is about to learn what happens when you hurt what belongs to him. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. The chandelier above the Grand Meridian Ballroom scattered light like diamonds across silk and champagne, transforming Manhattan's elite into glittering phantoms. Lena Hayes moved through them like smoke, present but unnoticed, exactly as an event coordinator should be. Her clipboard pressed against her ribs, and every breath was a calculated risk. Don't wince. Don't slow down. Don't let anyone see. She'd covered the bruises well, foundation layered thick over her cheekbone, the torn strap of her dress safety pinned beneath her blazer. Professional armor. But underneath, her body was screaming. 3 hours. That's all she needed to survive. 3 hours of this gala, and she could slip away, collect her payment, and disappear into the subway before anyone noticed the cracks in her performance. Ms. Hayes? A waiter appeared at her elbow, his face tight with concern. The ice sculpture in the foyer is melting faster than expected. Should we contact Glacier Art directly? Lena said, her voice steady despite the way her vision blurred at the edges. Tell them to send a backup. Charge it to the contingency fund. Make sure it's positioned before the mayor's speech at 10. The waiter nodded and vanished. Lena's fingers tightened on her clipboard until her knuckles went white. Keep moving. If you stop, you'll break. The ballroom was a masterpiece of controlled chaos. Her design. She'd spent 6 weeks planning every detail of Adrian Voss's annual charity gala. 500 guests, $50,000 plates, enough political power concentrated in one room to reshape the city's future. And she was bleeding through her dress. Lena felt it before she saw it, the wet warmth spreading across her ribs where the safety pin had finally given up. Her hand moved instinctively to her side, came away red. No, not here, not now. Panic clawed up her throat. She scanned the ballroom with desperate efficiency, looking for the nearest exit that wouldn't take her past the main clusters of guests, the storage corridor, second door past the kitchen. She could make it if she moved quickly, if she kept her blazer closed, if nobody looked too closely. She was 10 feet from safety when she heard his voice. Lena. Her entire body locked. She didn't turn around, couldn't. Adrian Voss didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. Power leaked from him like radiation, invisible but undeniable. She'd worked for him for 8 months, coordinating events for his various corporate holdings, and in all that time she'd learned one fundamental truth. When Adrian Voss said your name, you stopped. The event is flawless, he continued, his footsteps approaching from behind. As always. Thank you, Mr. Voss. Her voice came out surprisingly normal. Years of customer service training had prepared her to lie with a smile. If you'll excuse me, I need to check on, you're bleeding. The world narrowed to those 3 words, clinical, certain, devastating. Lena's hand pressed harder against her ribs. It's nothing, a small accident and setup earlier. I just need to... Look at me. It wasn't a request. She turned slowly, keeping her body angled, her blazer clutched closed. Adrian Voss stood 3 feet away, and even in a room full of Manhattan's most powerful men, he was the one who made gravity shift. Tall, built like someone who'd earned his strength rather than bought it, with dark hair and darker eyes that missed nothing. Those eyes were cataloging her now. The too careful way she held herself, the tremor in her hands, the foundation that couldn't quite cover the shadow of a bruise along her jaw. Who did this to you? His voice dropped to something quiet and absolutely lethal. Mr. Voss, I appreciate your concern, but I really need to... Storage corridor. Now. He didn't wait for her agreement. Adrian turned and walked toward the service hallway, the crowd parting for him instinctively. He expected to be followed. He expected to be obeyed. Lena stood frozen for 3 seconds, weighing her options. She could run, slip out the kitchen exit, disappear into the city, abandon her payment and her reputation and everything she'd worked for. Or she could follow him into that corridor and let the most dangerous man in Manhattan see exactly how broken she was. Her body made the choice for her. The next wave of pain folded her slightly forward, and she realized she wasn't going to make it out of the building without help. The storage corridor was blessedly empty, just industrial shelving, extra linens, and the humming silence of a space built for function rather than beauty. Adrian was waiting, his back to her, his shoulders rigid with something that looked like controlled fury. "Close the door," he said. She did. The click of the latch felt final. "Now tell me who did this." Lena pressed her back against the shelves, needing the support. "It's handled. I don't need—" "You're lying." He turned to face her, and his expression stole whatever words she'd been preparing. It wasn't anger exactly. It was colder than that. More surgical. "Your hands are shaking. You're favoring your left side. There's blood on your dress and terror in your eyes. So I'll ask one more time, and I want the truth. Who did this?" The careful walls Lena had built around herself, around the horror of last night, around the fear and shame and desperate need to survive, cracked. "It doesn't matter," she whispered. "I can't prove anything. I can't afford to lose this job. My mother needs—" "Your mother has stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and her treatment costs $15,000 a month." Adrian's voice was still calm, but underneath it ran something volcanic. "I know exactly what you're trying to protect. Now tell me who I need to destroy." The casual certainty of that last word, destroy, made her breath catch. "How do you know about my mother?" "I know everything about the people who work for me." He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "I know you work 70-hour weeks. I know you've never missed a deadline. I know you live in a studio apartment in Queens and you spend every spare dollar on your mother's care. And I know that sometime between yesterday evening and this morning, someone hurt you badly enough that you're bleeding through your clothes while trying to coordinate an event for 500 people." Lena's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to cry. It was supposed to be a simple delivery. Event supplies. The warehouse on 10th Avenue. Her voice cracked. "He said he'd help me load the van. His name. Mr. Voss, you don't understand. He's—" "I don't care who he is." Adrian's hands were perfectly still at his sides, but Lena could see the violence coiled in every line of his body. "I don't care who his father is, how much money he has, or what laws you think protect him. Give me his name." The fluorescent lights hummed above them. Somewhere beyond the door the gala continued, laughter and music and the casual transactions of power that made the city turn. In this small room, the world had narrowed to just the two of them, and the truth she'd been too terrified to speak. "Marcus Hendricks," she breathed. Adrian went very, very still. "Senator Hendricks' son." It wasn't a question. He already knew the connections, the implications, the fortress of privilege and political power that surrounded Marcus Hendricks like armor. "He said no one would believe me," Lena continued, the words spilling out now that the dam had broken. "He said I'd invited it by meeting him alone. He said his father would bury me if I tried to report it. And he was right. I called the police last night and they took my statement, but I could see it in their eyes. They knew who he was. They knew nothing would happen." "Show me." Lena's hands moved to her blazer, hesitated. "I need to see," Adrian said, and his voice had gentled fractionally. "I need to know what I'm dealing with." She unbuttoned the blazer with shaking fingers and let it fall. The dress underneath, a simple black sheath she'd bought for professional events, was torn along the shoulder seam. The safety pin had left a puncture wound above her ribs that was still seeping blood, but worse were the bruises. Dark purple fingerprints on her upper arms, the shadow of a hand across her collarbone. Adrian's jaw tightened until she could see the muscle jump beneath his skin. "There's more," she whispered, and pulled up the hem of her dress just enough to show the boot-shaped bruise across her thigh. "He kicked me when I tried to leave. I hit the concrete. Broke 2 ribs, I think." For a long moment, Adrian said nothing. He just looked at her, really looked, cataloging every injury with the precision of someone preparing for war. Then he moved. He shrugged out of his tuxedo jacket and draped it around her shoulders. The silk was still warm from his body, and it smelled like expensive cologne and something darker underneath, smoke and steel. "Sit," he ordered, gesturing to a stack of linens. I need to get back to the event. The mayor's speech, I'll handle it. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. My head of security is taking over event coordination. You're done for the night. Mr. Voss, I can't just... Lena. He crouched in front of her, bringing himself to eye level. You have 2 broken ribs, internal bleeding, and you're going into shock. You're not going anywhere except a hospital. I can't afford... It's handled. He made another call, his voice shifting into the tone of absolute command that probably moved millions of dollars with a single word. Marcus, it's Adrian. I need a medical team at the Grand Meridian. Private entrance, 10 minutes. Full discretion. Yes, the same team that handled the Singapore situation? Perfect. He ended the call and focused on her again. They'll take you to a private facility. The best doctors in the city. Your mother will be transferred there as well. They have an oncology wing that will make her current hospital look like a clinic. Lena's throat closed. Why are you doing this? Because you work for me. Because what happened to you is unacceptable. And because... He stopped, something shifting in his expression. Because I can. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now. Adrian stood, and the controlled fury was back in every line of his body. The medical team will be here in 8 minutes. I need you to tell me everything. Every detail of what happened last night. Everything Marcus Hendricks said. Everything he did. Everyone who might have seen you together. What are you going to do? His smile was terrible. I'm going to make sure he never touches another woman again. The law won't... I'm not talking about the law. The words hung between them like a promise or a threat. Lena should have been terrified. She should have refused his help, should have insisted on handling it herself, should have done anything except sit there wrapped in his jacket while he planned something dark and inevitable. But she wasn't terrified. She was relieved. For the first time since Marcus Hendricks had grabbed her in that warehouse, Lena felt something other than helpless fear. She felt safe. Tell me, Adrian said again, and this time it was gentle. So she did. She told him about the delivery that had seemed legitimate, about Marcus meeting her at the warehouse, offering to help load the van, about his hands on her before she could react, his weight pinning her down, his breath hot with alcohol and entitlement. She told him about fighting back, about the moment her nails had raked across his cheek and he'd exploded into rage, about the beating that followed, methodical and cruel, designed to hurt without leaving marks that couldn't be hidden. She told him about the final words Marcus had whispered before leaving her bleeding on the concrete floor. Thank you for the entertainment. Try to report this and my father will make sure you lose everything. Your job, your apartment, your mother's treatment, everything. Adrian listened without interrupting, his face carved from ice. The only sign of emotion was the way his hands slowly curled into fists, then deliberately relaxed. When she finished, silence filled the storage room like floodwater. He touched you at 8:47 last night, Adrian said finally, his voice distant. Left you at approximately 9:15. You spent 20 minutes on the warehouse floor before you could stand. You drove yourself home, called the police at 11:30. They took your statement and told you they'd investigate. You haven't slept. You came here directly from the emergency room after they refused to admit you without insurance verification. Lena stared at him. How could you possibly... Your parking garage has security footage time-stamped. The warehouse district has cameras on every corner. I own 3 of those buildings. And the way you're holding yourself tells me exactly how long you've been upright without medical attention. He checked his phone. The medical team is here. They're coming up the service elevator. Mr. Voss, Adrian! He looked at her directly, and for the first time she saw past the controlled exterior to something raw underneath. After tonight, you call me Adrian. The door opened. 2 people in discreet medical uniforms entered with a portable gurney, their movements professional and utterly silent. Ms. Hayes needs immediate attention, Adrian told them. 2 fractured ribs, possible internal bleeding, multiple contusions. I want her in a private suite at Mercy Heights within the hour. Her mother, Catherine Hayes, is currently at St. Luke's Oncology Ward. Arrange immediate transfer to Mercy Heights as well. Put everything under my personal account. One of the medical professionals, a woman with kind eyes, knelt beside Lena. Ms. Hayes, I'm Dr. Chen. We're going to take care of you. can you tell me your pain level on a scale of 1 to 10? 7, Lena managed. Maybe 8. We'll get that down. I'm going to start an IV for pain management and fluids. Is that okay? Lena nodded, watching as Dr. Chen worked with efficient gentleness. The medication hit her system within seconds, and the edge of pain that had been drowning her finally began to recede. Adrian stood watching, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice low and commanding. Samuel, I need you at the ballroom in 3 minutes. You're taking over event coordination for the rest of the evening. I don't care about the Tokyo deal. Handle it remotely, because I have something more important to deal with. He ended the call and returned his attention to Lena, who was now being carefully transferred to the gurney. The gala, she started. Will be perfect, Adrian interrupted. Samuel has coordinated events for heads of state. He can handle one charity dinner. My payment is waiting in your account, plus a bonus for working through an injury, plus coverage for all your medical expenses and your mother's treatment for the next year. Lena's breath caught. I can't accept. You can, and you will. Adrian moved closer as Dr. Chen adjusted the IV drip. Because you've earned it, because what happened to you is not your fault, and because I'm going to make very sure you never have to be afraid again. The gurney began moving toward the door. Lena reached out instinctively, catching Adrian's wrist. What are you going to do to him? She asked. Adrian looked down at her hand on his wrist, then met her eyes. In that moment, Lena saw something in his expression that should have terrified her. A cold, absolute certainty that reminded her of winter storms and deep ocean trenches. Nothing that he doesn't deserve, Adrian said quietly. Close your eyes, Lena. This part isn't your burden to carry. But trust me. His hand covered hers briefly, warm and solid. Can you do that? She shouldn't. She barely knew this man beyond professional interactions and the carefully curated reputation that made him Manhattan's most feared power broker. She shouldn't trust him. She shouldn't let him do whatever dark thing was forming behind his eyes. But she was so tired of being afraid, so tired of being powerless, so tired of living in a world where men like Marcus Hendricks could destroy her and walk away laughing. Yes, Lena whispered. I trust you. Something shifted in Adrian's expression, surprise maybe, or something deeper that he quickly buried. Then rest, he said. I'll take care of everything. The medical team wheeled her toward the service elevator. The last thing Lena saw before the medication pulled her under was Adrian Voss standing alone in that storage corridor, his phone already pressed to his ear, his voice dropping into a register that promised violence. Michael, I need everything you have on Marcus Hendricks. Everything. His schedule, his security detail, his habits, his weaknesses. I need it in 30 minutes. No, this isn't a business matter. This is personal. The elevator doors closed and Lena surrendered to the darkness, wrapped in Adrian Voss's jacket, surrounded by the scent of expensive cologne and the strange, fierce comfort of knowing that someone, finally, was going to make Marcus Hendricks pay. When Lena woke, she was in a room that looked nothing like any hospital she'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, now painted silver by moonlight. The bed was obscenely comfortable. The machines monitoring her vitals were sleek and silent, their displays glowing soft blue in the dimness. And her mother was there. Catherine Hayes sat in a chair beside the bed, looking better than Lena had seen her in months. No longer the exhausted gray of a woman fighting cancer in an overcrowded ward. Now she looked almost peaceful, her hand wrapped around Lena's. Mom? Lena's voice came out hoarse. Catherine's eyes opened immediately. Oh, sweetheart, you're awake. Relief flooded her face. How do you feel? Lena assessed carefully. The sharp pain in her ribs had dulled to a manageable ache. The fog of fear and exhaustion had lifted. Better. How did you? Mr. Voss arranged everything. Catherine squeezed her hand gently. A private ambulance came for me 2 hours ago. They said my treatment would continue here, in this facility, with specialists who... Her voice broke slightly. Lena, they said they can help me, really help me. Clinical trials, targeted therapies, things my insurance would never cover. Tears burned Lena's eyes. Mom, I know what happened last night. Catherine's voice hardened. The doctors told me you were injured at work, but I could see it in your face. Someone hurt you. Lena looked away, unable to meet her mother's eyes. "Look at me," Catherine said, and Lena heard the steel that had gotten her mother through 30 years of raising a daughter alone, working double shifts, surviving. "This is not your fault. Do you understand me? Whatever happened, whoever did this, it is not your fault." He said no one would believe me. "I believe you, and apparently so does Adrian Voss." Catherine glanced toward the door. "He was here earlier, sat right in that chair for 20 minutes, waiting for you to wake up. When I asked why he was doing all this, do you know what he said?" Lena shook her head. "He said, 'Your daughter is the best coordinator in the city, and someone tried to destroy her for it. That's unacceptable.'" Catherine's expression was thoughtful. "He's intense, but I don't think I've ever seen someone so absolutely certain about protecting another person." Before Lena could respond, there was a soft knock at the door. Adrian Voss entered without waiting for permission, moving with the unconscious authority of someone who owned whatever room he occupied. He'd changed from his tuxedo into dark slacks and a black shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with lean muscle. His eyes went to Lena first, scanning her with clinical precision. "You're awake. Good. Dr. Chen says you'll need to stay here for at least 3 days while your ribs heal, but the internal bleeding is minimal. No permanent damage." "Mr. Voss," Lena started. "Adrian," he corrected, then turned to Catherine. "Mrs. Hayes, I've arranged a suite for you 2 floors up. You'll be close enough to visit whenever you want, but you need rest as well." Catherine stood, and Lena saw her mother evaluating Adrian with the sharp perception of someone who'd spent decades reading people. Whatever she saw made her nod slowly. "Thank you," Catherine said simply, "for everything." "Not charity," Adrian replied. "It's what should have been available to you from the beginning." Catherine moved to the door, then paused. "Mr. Voss, whatever you're planning to do about the man who hurt my daughter, I hope it's thorough." A ghost of a smile crossed Adrian's face. "It will be." When the door closed behind Catherine, silence filled the room. Adrian pulled the chair closer to Lena's bed and sat, his elbows resting on his knees, his hands clasped loosely. "The gala finished perfectly," he said. "Senator Hendricks gave a speech about justice and accountability. Very inspiring. His son was supposed to be there, but apparently had a sudden obligation." Lena's heart jumped. "You didn't—" "I haven't done anything," Adrian said calmly. "Yet. But I wanted to talk to you first, to give you a choice." "What kind of choice?" "The legal route will take months, maybe years. It will be expensive, emotionally devastating, and given Marcus Hendricks's connections, the odds of a conviction are minimal. You'll be dragged through depositions and trial testimony. Your life will be dissected, and at the end, he might get probation." Lena's stomach turned. "And the other option?" Adrian leaned forward, his dark eyes holding hers. "I make him disappear." The words were simple. The implications were not. "Disappear," Lena repeated slowly. "Not permanently, not dead." Adrian's voice was steady, clinical. "But removed, completely and absolutely. Somewhere he can never hurt anyone again. Somewhere the law can't protect him and his father's money means nothing." "That's kidnapping. That's justice," Adrian interrupted quietly. "Real justice. Not the kind that gets negotiated away in back rooms by expensive lawyers. The kind that actually protects people." Lena stared at him, trying to process what he was offering. "Why would you do this? You barely know me." "I know enough." Adrian's jaw tightened. "I know you show up every day and work harder than anyone has a right to expect. I know you've never asked for special treatment despite your mother's illness. I know you're brilliant at your job because you care about details that other people ignore. And I know that Marcus Hendricks saw all of that, saw your competence, your kindness, your dedication, and decided you were something he could break for entertainment." His hands flexed, then relaxed. "I've built my fortune on reading people, Lena, on understanding value. And what I see when I look at you is someone worth protecting. You don't protect people by becoming a criminal." I became a criminal a long time ago." Adrian's smile was sharp. "I just happen to be very good at it. Good enough that no one has ever proven anything. Good enough that the law treats me like a pillar of the community while I reshape it from underneath." Lena's breath came shallow. If I say yes to this, if I let you do whatever you're planning, that makes me complicit. Yes, Adrian agreed. It makes you someone who chose power over helplessness. Someone who decided that survival means fighting back with every weapon available. Someone who refuses to be destroyed by people who think they're untouchable. He leaned closer, and Lena could see the absolute certainty in his eyes. I'm going to do this regardless of your answer, Lena, because I've already decided that Marcus Hendricks is a problem that needs to be eliminated. But I'm giving you the choice to be part of it, to know exactly what happens to him, to own that justice instead of wondering if you should have done more. And if I say no, then I handle it quietly, and you recover in peace, and we never speak of it again. Adrian's expression softened fractionally. I won't think less of you. Some people aren't built for this kind of war. There's no shame in that. Lena looked down at her hands, still bruised, still shaking slightly. She thought about Marcus Hendricks' face above hers in that warehouse, about his laughter, about the casual cruelty in his voice when he'd promised to destroy everything she loved if she fought back. She thought about every woman who'd been hurt the same way, about how many more would be hurt if someone didn't stop him. What exactly would you do? She asked quietly. Adrian smiled, and it was the most dangerous expression Lena had ever seen. Let me tell you about a place I own in the Adirondacks. Adrian's voice dropped to something almost conversational, but underneath ran currents of steel and ice. There's a facility in the mountains, very remote, very secure. Originally built as a rehabilitation center for corporate executives who needed to disappear from public life for a while. Drug problems, mental breakdowns, scandals that required time to fade. He pulled out his phone, swiped through several images, then turned the screen toward Lena. She saw a sprawling stone compound nestled in dense forest, surrounded by high walls that looked decorative but were clearly reinforced, guard towers disguised as scenic overlooks, gates that could withstand a siege. Over the years, I've expanded its purpose, Adrian continued. Now it houses people who need to be removed from society. Not criminals in the legal sense. The law is remarkably bad at protecting people from those with money and connections. But predators, people who hurt others because they believe they're untouchable. Lena's throat went dry. How many people are there? Currently, 17. Men and women both, though mostly men. Each one carefully selected. Each one someone who destroyed lives and walked away laughing because the system protected them. His eyes never left hers. They're kept comfortable, fed well, given medical care, but they can't leave, ever. And they spend every day knowing exactly why they're there. Lena struggled to find words. That's insane. That's playing judge and jury and an executioner in a way, Adrian agreed calmly, though I prefer to think of it as permanent quarantine. These people are diseases, Lena, infections in the social fabric. The legal system is too slow, too corrupt, too easily manipulated to stop them. So I do it myself. Someone must have noticed. 17 people don't just vanish without, they're not vanished in the traditional sense. Adrian's smile turned sharp. Most of them are officially in long-term rehabilitation facilities, psychiatric care, or extended medical treatment. I own enough legitimate medical institutions to make the paperwork impeccable. Their families receive regular updates. Some even visit, though what they see is carefully curated. He leaned back in his chair, utterly relaxed, as if discussing a business investment rather than a private prison. Marcus Hendricks would become patient number 18. His father would be told he suffered a severe mental breakdown following a traumatic incident. Very sad, very private. The family would appreciate discretion during this difficult time. Lena's mind reeled. This was beyond anything she'd imagined. Not revenge, something colder and more permanent. And if his father doesn't accept that story, Senator Hendricks will accept whatever story I give him. Adrian's voice hardened. Because I have enough information on his financial dealings to end his political career in an afternoon. Offshore accounts, bribes from construction companies, backroom deals that violate half a dozen federal laws. I've been collecting insurance on him for 3 years. Why? Because powerful people are useful right up until they become dangerous. Then you need leverage. Adrian's gaze intensified. I didn't plan to use it this way, but the moment his son put his hands on you, Senator Hendricks became my enemy, and I'm very thorough with my enemies. The machines monitoring Lena's vitals beeped softly in the silence. She thought about Marcus Hendricks spending the rest of his life in that mountain facility. Comfortable, but trapped. Knowing he'd been caught. Knowing there was no escape. It should have horrified her. Should have made her recoil from Adrian and everything he represented. Instead, she felt something warm and fierce unfold in her chest. Something that tasted like vindication. "When?" she asked quietly. Adrian's expression shifted, satisfaction mixed with something that might have been respect. "Tonight. He's at his apartment in Tribeca right now, probably congratulating himself on getting away with it. My people are already in position. One phone call, and he disappears into a medical transport. By morning, he'll be in the Adirondacks, and by tomorrow afternoon, his father will be receiving the very sad news about his son's breakdown." "I want to know," Lena said, her voice stronger now. "Every detail. What happens to him? How long he's there? Everything." "Are you sure?" Adrian searched her face. "Once you know, you can't unknow it. You become part of this, part of me." "I'm already part of it." Lena held his gaze. "The moment you found me in that storage room, the moment you decided to help me, I became part of your world. I might as well understand what that means." For a long moment, Adrian said nothing. Then he reached into his pocket and withdrew a small black phone, not his usual device, something simpler and clearly dedicated to specific purposes. "This is a secure line," he said, placing it on the bedside table. "Only 3 people have the number. You're about to become the 4th. When Marcus Hendricks is secured, you'll receive a text with confirmation. After that, you'll get weekly updates on his status. If you want more details, you call this number and ask." Lena picked up the phone, felt its weight in her palm. "Who are the other 3 people?" "My head of security, my attorney, and the doctor who runs the facility." Adrian's mouth quirked. "You're in very exclusive company. Why me? Why give me this kind of access?" "Because you deserve to know that he's contained. Because living with uncertainty is its own kind of torture, and you've suffered enough." Adrian stood, moved to the window overlooking the park. "And because I want you to trust me, really trust me, not just accept my help, but understand who I am and what I'm capable of." The honesty in his voice made Lena's chest tighten. "Why does my trust matter so much?" Adrian was silent for several heartbeats, his reflection visible in the window glass. "I'm not entirely sure," he admitted finally, "but it does." Before Lena could respond, Adrian's regular phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor shifted into something harder, more focused. "Marcus just left his apartment," he said, reading the message. "He's heading to a bar in the Lower East Side, probably planning to celebrate." The disgust in his voice was palpable. "My team will intercept him in the parking garage, clean, quiet, no witnesses." Lena's heart hammered. "How long?" 30 minutes. Maybe less." Adrian pocketed his phone and returned to the chair beside her bed. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Are you afraid of me?" The question caught her off guard. Lena looked at him, really looked, at the controlled violence in every line of his body, at the cold intelligence in his eyes, at the kind of power that could make people disappear and reshape reality to fit his will. She should be terrified. "No," she said truthfully. "I'm not afraid of you." "Why not?" "Because everything you're doing, everything you're planning, it's not about me. It's not to control me or own me or make me dependent on you." Lena chose her words carefully. "You're angry on my behalf. You're using your power to protect me, not to hurt me. That's not something to be afraid of." Adrian's expression flickered with something raw and quickly hidden. "Most people don't see it that way. They see the violence and assume it could turn on them." "I'm not most people." "No," Adrian agreed quietly. "You're not." His phone buzzed again. He checked it, typed a brief response, then looked back at Lena. "They're moving into position. Hendricks just parked. He's alone." Lena gripped the secure phone he'd given her, her knuckles white. "What happens if something goes wrong? If he fights back? If someone sees?" "He won't fight. My team includes a doctor who'll sedate him the moment he's secured, and no one will see. The garage security system is already looped. As far as any cameras are concerned, Marcus Hendricks is still in his apartment, never left tonight." Adrian's voice carried absolute certainty. I've done this 17 times before, Lena. I know how to make it perfect. The casual way he said it, 17 times before, should have chilled her. Instead, Lena felt a strange sense of security. This wasn't chaos or rage. This was precision, planning, the kind of meticulous attention to detail that she recognized from coordinating events, just applied to something infinitely darker. Tell me about the others, she said suddenly. The 17 people already there. Adrian raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I need to know this isn't just about revenge. I need to know there's a pattern, a purpose. He considered her for a moment, then nodded. Patient 1 is a hedge fund manager who deliberately crashed a pension fund, destroying the retirement savings of 4,000 people. He made $50 million in the process and never faced charges. Adrian's voice was clinical, reciting facts. Patient 3 was a surgeon who sexually assaulted patients under anesthesia. 7 confirmed cases, probably more. The hospital settled quietly. He kept his medical license, moved to a different state. He continued, each case a portrait of power corrupting absolutely. A tech CEO who knowingly sold faulty medical devices that killed children. A producer who drugged and raped aspiring actresses for 2 decades. A politician who embezzled disaster relief funds and left a town to rot. Each one slipped through the legal system, Adrian said. Each one had enough money or connections to escape consequences. And each one would have continued destroying lives if someone hadn't stopped them. You appointed yourself judge, Lena murmured. Someone had to. Adrian's eyes were hard. You can't wait for justice when justice is broken. You can't hope the system will protect people when the system is designed to protect money and power. So yes, I appointed myself judge, an executioner, and warden. His phone buzzed. He glanced down, and satisfaction crossed his face. They have him. Sedated and secured. The transport is rolling. Lena's breath caught. Just like that. Marcus Hendricks, the man who'd shattered her, who'd promised she'd never escape him, was gone. How do you feel? Adrian asked, watching her carefully. Lena searched herself for guilt, for horror, for the moral revulsion she thought she should feel, but all she found was a deep, settling relief, like a weight she'd been carrying had finally been lifted. I feel safe, she whispered. Good. Adrian stood, smoothed his shirt. The secure phone will ping in about 4 hours with confirmation that he's arrived at the facility. You should rest now. Dr. Chen will be by in the morning to check your ribs. He moved toward the door, then paused. Lena, what I'm doing for you, what I've done tonight, it doesn't come with obligations. You don't owe me anything. Your job is still yours if you want it, with the same professional boundaries as before. This changes nothing unless you want it to. Lena looked at him, this man who'd just orchestrated a kidnapping on her behalf and was now carefully establishing that she wasn't trapped by his generosity. And if I want it to change, she asked softly. Adrian went very still. Then we'll figure out what that looks like. Together. When you're healed and thinking clearly. I'm thinking clearly now. You're on painkillers and processing trauma. His voice gentled. I won't take advantage of that. When you're ready, if you're ready, we'll talk. Until then, focus on recovering. He left before she could argue, the door clicking shut with finality. Lena lay in the darkness, the secure phone warm in her hand, and waited for confirmation that her nightmare had ended. It came 4 hours later, exactly as Adrian had promised. A simple text. Package delivered. Secured in Wing B, Room 7. Assessment complete. No complications. Lena stared at those words until they blurred. Then she closed her eyes and, for the first time in 48 hours, slept without fear. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and her mother sitting beside the bed, looking more animated than she had in months. They started a new treatment protocol this morning, Catherine said, her eyes bright. Targeted immunotherapy. The oncologist says it's cutting edge, normally costs $250,000, not covered by any insurance. But here it's just included. Mom, I know. Catherine took her hand. I know this is all because of what happened to you, and I know you're probably feeling guilty about accepting help, but sweetheart, let me tell you something important. She leaned closer, her grip tightening. I've spent 30 years watching the system grind down good people, watching people work themselves to death and still can't afford medicine. watching rich men destroy lives and face no consequences. And if one of those rich men finally decided to use his power for something good, if he decided to protect my daughter and save my life in the process, I'm not going to question it. I'm going to say thank you and fight like hell to survive. Lena's throat closed. I don't deserve. You deserve everything, Catherine interrupted fiercely. You deserve safety. You deserve justice. You deserve a life where you don't have to be afraid every second of every day. And if Adrian Voss can give you that, then I don't care how dark his methods are. A knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Chen entered, accompanied by a younger doctor Lena didn't recognize. Good morning, Ms. Hayes. How's the pain? Manageable, Lena said. Excellent. Your ribs are healing well. The internal bruising is responding to treatment. I'd like to keep you here another 2 days for observation, but you're progressing beautifully. Dr. Chen smiled. Your mother's right. You're a fighter. After the doctors left, Catherine squeezed Lena's hand one more time. I'm going to my treatment session, but I'll be back this afternoon. Try to rest, okay? Alone again, Lena picked up the secure phone. She stared at it for a long moment, then dialed the only number programmed in. It rang once before a calm, professional voice answered. Ms. Hayes, I assume you're calling about patient 18. I want to know what happens to him, Lena said. Not just that he's there. I want to know the details. Of course. Patient 18 is currently in medical observation following sedation for transport. He regained consciousness approximately 1 hour ago. He's been informed of his situation and the reasons for his containment. His initial response was denial, followed by threats, followed by attempts at bargaining. All expected. The clinical recitation should have bothered her. Instead, Lena found it oddly comforting. What happens next? He'll remain in medical observation for 72 hours while we assess his psychological state and ensure he's not a danger to himself. After that, he'll be moved to a private suite in Wing B. He'll have access to recreational facilities, a library, internet with heavy monitoring, and weekly sessions with our staff psychologist. It sounds like a resort, Lena said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. It's not. The voice remained professional but carried a hint of steel. It's a cage, Ms. Hayes, a comfortable cage, but a cage nonetheless. Patient 18 will spend every day knowing he can never leave, never see his family except through supervised video calls, never touch another woman, never exercise the power he once wielded. For someone like him, that's torture. Lena absorbed this. How long? Indefinitely. Mr. Voss's standard protocols indicate lifetime containment for violent offenders. Patient 18 will remain at the facility until his natural death, barring extraordinary circumstances. And his father, Senator Hendricks, received notification this morning of his son's mental health crisis. He's accepted the story. He has no choice. Mr. Voss made it clear that any attempt to investigate or remove his son would result in significant professional consequences. The senator is a pragmatic man. He'll grieve privately and publicly support his son's need for treatment. Lena's hand tightened on the phone. I want to see him. Silence on the other end. Then, see patient 18? Yes, that's highly irregular. Mr. Voss specifically designed the facility to separate victims from their, I don't care what's regular. I want to see him. I want him to know that I'm the reason he's there. I want him to understand what he lost. More silence. Then, I'll discuss it with Mr. Voss. He'll need to approve any visitation. Then tell him I'm asking. Lena ended the call and set the phone down, her heart racing. She didn't know why she needed to see Marcus Hendricks in that cage. Didn't know if it was closure she wanted or something darker, but the need burned in her chest like a coal that wouldn't extinguish. The secure phone rang 20 minutes later. Adrian says yes, the professional voice informed her, but not yet. You need to be fully healed first, and he'll accompany you personally. No exceptions. When? 2 weeks. Your ribs will be stable enough for travel by then. We'll arrange secure transport. After the call ended, Lena lay back against the pillows, processing everything. 2 weeks. 2 weeks until she faced the man who'd tried to destroy her. 2 weeks to decide what she wanted to say to him. 2 weeks to understand what it meant that Adrian Voss had handed her this kind of power. The days blurred together in a haze of medical care, her mother's improving health, and the strange, suspended reality of the private facility. Lena's ribs healed, Her bruises faded from purple to yellow to gone. Dr. Chen declared her recovered enough to move around freely, though she should avoid strenuous activity for another month. Adrian visited twice. Once to check on her progress, his manner professional and distant. Once to sit in silence while she slept, leaving before she woke. She only knew because the nurse mentioned it the next morning. On the 10th day, Lena's regular phone, the one she'd left in her apartment and that someone had retrieved for her, rang with an unknown number. "Ms. Hayes? This is Detective Morrison with the NYPD. I'm calling about your assault complaint regarding Marcus Hendricks." Lena's stomach dropped. "Yes?" "I wanted to inform you that we've closed the investigation. Mr. Hendricks has been committed to a long-term psychiatric facility for treatment of severe mental health issues. Given his current state, the DA doesn't believe prosecution is viable or appropriate. I'm sorry we couldn't do more." The detective sounded genuinely regretful. Lena wondered if he knew the truth or if he was just another piece being moved on Adrian's chessboard. "I understand," she said carefully. "Thank you for calling. If you need resources for victim support..." "I'm fine. Really, I've gotten the help I need." After she hung up, Lena sat staring at her phone. The legal system had closed her case without solving it. The official story was mental breakdown, not justice. And yet justice had been served, just not through legal channels. She should feel conflicted, should feel like something was wrong with this solution. But all she felt was satisfied. That evening, Adrian arrived unannounced. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes suggesting he'd been working around the clock. But when he entered her room, his focus sharpened entirely on her. "You're walking," he observed. "Dr. Chen cleared me for light activity." Lena was standing by the window, watching the city lights flicker to life as dusk fell. "I'm being discharged tomorrow." "I know. I've arranged a car to take you home." Adrian moved to stand beside her, not quite close enough to touch. "And security. You'll have a driver and a bodyguard for the next month, just to ensure there are no complications." "Complications like what? Marcus is gone. His father isn't going to..." "His father is neutralized, but he has friends, allies, people who might decide to send a message." Adrian's voice was calm but firm. "I'm not taking chances with your safety." Lena turned to face him. The detective called. They closed the case. "I know. I made sure the story was airtight." Adrian met her eyes. "No one will question what happened to Marcus Hendricks. As far as the world is concerned, he had a breakdown and needs treatment. End of story." "And the truth?" "The truth is between you, me, and the people who need to know." Adrian's expression softened fractionally. "How are you feeling about it?" "Really?" Lena considered lying, offering the response she thought she should give. But Adrian had been nothing but honest with her, even when that honesty revealed something dark and dangerous. He deserved the same. "I feel powerful," she admitted quietly. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I have control. Like I'm not just surviving whatever the world throws at me. Like I fought back and won." "Good." Adrian's approval was palpable. "That's exactly how you should feel." "Is it wrong to feel this way?" "Wrong according to who?" Adrian moved closer, his dark eyes holding hers. "According to laws written by people who've never been powerless? According to morality defined by those who never had to fight for survival? Wrong is subjective, Lena. Protection isn't." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was gentle, almost tender, and completely at odds with the controlled violence she knew he was capable of. "In 2 days, we'll go to the facility," Adrian said. "You'll see him. You'll say whatever you need to say, and then we'll leave, and you'll move forward with your life. Understood?" Lena nodded, not trusting her voice. Adrian's hand lingered near her face for another heartbeat, then dropped. "Your apartment has been cleaned and secured. New locks, security system. I took the liberty of moving your mother's things to a larger place in the same building. Ground floor, better accessibility. She'll need it as her treatment progresses." You didn't have to." "I wanted to." Adrian's tone left no room for argument. "Your mother is a fighter. She deserves to fight from a position of strength, not from a cramped studio with no elevator access." Tears burned Lena's eyes. "Why are you doing all this?" "Because I can. Because you deserve it. Because..." Adrian stopped, something shifting in his expression. Because when I found you in that storage room, bleeding and terrified, something in me recognized something in you, and I decided then that you were mine to protect. The possessiveness in his voice should have alarmed her, should have sent up every red flag. Instead, it made her feel cherished. Yours to protect, Lena repeated softly. Not yours to own. Never to own. Adrian's voice was fierce. You're not property. You're not a thing to be controlled. But you are under my protection now, and that means something. It means I'll burn down anyone who tries to hurt you. It means your safety matters more to me than laws or consequences or my own reputation. He stepped back, creating distance, and Lena felt the loss of his proximity like a physical ache. Rest tonight, Adrian said, his professional mask sliding back into place. Tomorrow you go home. The day after, we visit the facility. And after that, you decide what comes next. What if I've already decided? Adrian paused at the door, his hand on the frame. Then tell me when you're ready, when you're sure. When there's no question that it's what you really want and not just gratitude or trauma bonding or any of the dozen psychological reactions to being rescued. He left without waiting for her response. Lena stood alone in the dimming light, the secure phone heavy in her pocket, and wondered when exactly she'd stopped seeing Adrian Voss as a dangerous stranger and started seeing him as something infinitely more complicated, something that felt dangerously close to home. The car that arrived to take Lena home the next morning wasn't what she expected. Not a limousine or anything ostentatious, just a sleek black SUV with tinted windows and a driver who introduced himself as Marcus. Not the same Marcus who'd destroyed her, but the name still made her flinch. I know, the driver said quietly, reading her reaction. Mr. Voss asked if I wanted to use a different name for this assignment. I told him no. Figured maybe you could reclaim it, make it mean something different. Lena studied him. Mid-40s, military bearing, kind eyes. You work for Adrian regularly? 10 years now. Best employer I've ever had. Marcus opened the rear door for her. Also the most terrifying when someone crosses him, but I imagine you figured that out. The drive through Manhattan felt surreal. Lena watched the familiar streets roll past, remembered navigating them just 2 weeks ago when the world was completely different. When she was different. Her apartment building looked the same from the outside, but when Marcus escorted her upstairs, she found Adrian hadn't just changed the locks. He'd transformed the entire space. The cramped studio had been merged with the adjacent unit. Walls removed, the space opened up into something almost luxurious. New furniture, new appliances. A separate bedroom with actual walls instead of just a curtain partition. The medical equipment her mother needed was set up in the corner, top of the line, and far beyond anything insurance would have covered. Mr. Voss bought the building 6 days ago, Marcus explained, watching her take it all in. Relocated the tenants from the adjacent units. Your mother's new place is directly below this one. Elevator access, ground floor entrance, full accessibility modifications. Lena pressed her hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. He bought the entire building? It was investment-grade property in a good neighborhood, made financial sense. Marcus's tone suggested he was quoting Adrian directly. The renovations were just logical improvements to protect his investment. That's not why he did it. No, ma'am, it's not. Marcus moved to the window, checking the sight lines with professional efficiency. But Mr. Voss doesn't like people feeling indebted to him. Easier to frame it as business than charity. Catherine arrived an hour later, glowing with an energy Lena hadn't seen in over a year. The new treatment was working. Not a cure, not yet. But her mother was fighting with weapons that actually worked instead of the bare-bones care she'd been receiving. Look at this place, Catherine marveled, running her hand over the granite countertops. Lena, this is incredible. It's too much, Lena murmured. It's exactly enough. Catherine turned to face her. And before you spiral into guilt, remember what I told you at the hospital. Sometimes powerful people do good things. Let them. That night, alone in her new bedroom with actual privacy for the first time in years, Lena called the secure phone. The same professional voice answered. Miss Hayes, how can I help you? I need to know he's really there, that this is real. A pause. Would you like to hear him? Lena's breath caught. What? I can patch you through to monitoring. You won't be able to speak to him, but you'll hear his sessions with the psychologist. It might help make it real. Yes. Lena said before she could second-guess herself. There was a click, then the sound of two voices in conversation, one calm and clinical, the psychologist, the other tight with barely controlled rage. "You can't keep me here," Marcus Hendricks was saying. "My father will find me. He'll send lawyers, investigators, the FBI if he has to." "Your father already knows where you are, Marcus." The psychologist's voice was patient. "He's been informed of your situation. He's chosen not to intervene." "That's impossible. He wouldn't just abandon—" He received a very thorough explanation of why intervention would be unwise. "Your father is a pragmatic man. He's weighed his options and decided that your current placement is the best solution for everyone involved." Silence. Then Marcus's voice, smaller now, edged with something that might have been fear. "What did they tell him?" "That you assaulted a woman. That there's evidence. That Mr. Voss is willing to make that evidence disappear in exchange for your father's cooperation." A pause. "Your father chose his political career over you, Marcus. I'm sorry." The sound of something breaking, a shout of rage. Then Marcus's voice again, cracking. "I want to call him. I want to talk to my father." You can request a supervised call next week. But Marcus, you need to understand something. The person you were, the man who believed he could hurt people without consequences, that person is gone. You're here now. This is your reality. The sooner you accept that, the easier it will be. Lena listened to Marcus Hendricks break down, his rage dissolving into something that sounded almost like grief, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "Enough," she said quietly. The connection clicked off. The professional voice returned. "Ms. Hayes, are you all right?" "I'm fine, better than fine." Lena's grip on the phone was steady. "When do we visit?" "Tomorrow. Mr. Voss will collect you at 9 in the morning. The drive is approximately 3 hours. You'll have supervised access to patient 18 for 30 minutes. Then we'll return you home." After the call ended, Lena stood at her new window, looking out over the city that had once terrified her. Somewhere out there, Adrian Voss was moving pieces on a chessboard she was only beginning to understand. And somehow, impossibly, she'd become one of those pieces. Not a pawn to be sacrificed, but something more valuable, something worth protecting. Sleep came easier that night than it had since the assault. When Lena closed her eyes, she didn't see Marcus Hendricks' face above her in that warehouse. She saw Adrian standing in the storage room doorway, his voice deadly calm, promising to make everything right. The SUV arrived precisely at 9. Adrian sat in the back, dressed in dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that made him look less like a Manhattan billionaire and more like something dangerous barely contained in civilized clothing. "Morning," he said as Lena slid in beside him. "Did you sleep?" "Better than expected." She studied his face, noticed the tension around his eyes. "Did you?" "I don't sleep much." Adrian gestured to Marcus, and the SUV pulled smoothly into traffic. "Too many things to manage." They rode in silence through the city and onto the highway heading north. The urban sprawl gradually gave way to suburbs, then to genuine countryside. Trees thick with late autumn foliage pressed close to the road. "Are you nervous?" Adrian asked eventually. Lena considered. "No, I thought I would be, but I'm not." "What are you feeling?" "Curious." "Whoa." She turned to look at him. "I want to see what you've built. I want to understand how this works." Adrian's mouth curved slightly. "Most people don't want to understand. They want the results without knowing the mechanism." "I'm not most people." "No," Adrian agreed quietly. "You're not." The facility appeared gradually, first just a gate across a private road, then guard towers disguised as scenic overlooks. Then the main compound nestled in a valley between forested peaks. It looked exactly like the photos Adrian had shown her. Expensive, isolated, and utterly inescapable. They passed through 3 security checkpoints, each guard nodding respectfully to Adrian. No one questioned his presence or asked for identification. This was his kingdom, and everyone knew it. Inside, the facility felt more like a high-end medical center than a prison. Soft lighting, tasteful artwork, the quiet hum of expensive HVAC systems. A woman in professional attire met them in the lobby, the psychologist whose voice Lena had heard on the phone. "Mr. Voss." "Miss Hayes." She offered her hand. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. Welcome to the facility." "Same last name as my doctor in the city," Lena observed. My sister, Dr. Chen confirmed. Mr. Voss prefers to work with families he trusts. Easier to maintain discretion. She led them through corridors that could have belonged to any upscale hospital, except for the reinforced doors and the subtle presence of security cameras everywhere. They stopped outside a door marked simply B7. Patient 18 is inside, Dr. Chen said. He's been informed of your visit. He's not happy about it. Good, Lena said. Dr. Chen's expression flickered with something that might have been approval. There's a panic button on the wall if you need to end the session early. The room is monitored and there's security outside. He can't hurt you. I know. Lena looked at Adrian. Are you coming in? Do you want me to? She thought about it. Part of her wanted him there. Wanted the security of his presence. The visible reminder of the power that had destroyed Marcus Hendrix's entire world. But another part needed to do this alone. To face her demon without anyone standing between them. Wait here, she said. I'll be fine. Adrian searched her face for a long moment, then nodded. 30 minutes, not a second longer. Dr. Chen opened the door. The room beyond was comfortable. A small sitting area with a couch, 2 chairs, a window overlooking the forest. And standing by that window, his back rigid with tension, was Marcus Hendrix. He looked different than Lena remembered, thinner. The arrogant confidence that had radiated from him in the warehouse was gone, replaced by something brittle and desperate. When he turned to face her, she saw the purple shadows under his eyes, the hollow set to his cheeks. You, he breathed, and his voice cracked on the word. You did this. Lena closed the door behind her and moved to the center of the room. I didn't do anything. You did this to yourself. You told him. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. You told Adrian Voss what happened, and he gestured wildly at their surroundings. Do you have any idea what you've done? What this place is? A cage, Lena said calmly. For people like you. I'm not a criminal. I didn't... He stopped, seemed to remember who he was talking to. It was a misunderstanding. Things got out of hand. I was drunk. I didn't mean... You meant every second of it. Lena's voice was steel. You enjoyed it. You laughed while you were hurting me. You told me no one would believe me, that your father would destroy me if I tried to fight back. You meant all of it. Marcus's face twisted. So what, you had your boyfriend kidnap me? Lock me in some private prison? That's insane. That's illegal. And what you did to me wasn't? I never... He stopped again, reading something in her expression. Fine. Fine. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for what happened. It was wrong. I was wrong. But this... He gestured around them again. This is worse. This is kidnapping, false imprisonment. You can't just... I can, Lena interrupted quietly. I already did. You're here. You're going to stay here, and there's nothing you can do about it. The reality of it seemed to hit Marcus all at once. His knees buckled slightly, and he caught himself on the windowsill. My father will... Your father knows exactly where you are. He chose not to help you. Lena moved closer, watching him flinch away from her. Adrian gave him a choice. Lose his political career or lose his son. He chose his career. You're alone here, Marcus, completely alone. You can't do this to me. His voice rose, panic bleeding through. I'm a person. I have rights. You can't just lock me away forever because I can, Lena said, echoing Adrian's words. Because someone finally had the power to stop you and the will to use it. Because the legal system that was supposed to protect me chose to protect you instead, so we built our own justice. She sat down in one of the chairs, settled in like she was preparing to stay for a while. Do you want to know what my life was like after you hurt me? I worked a high-profile event with broken ribs and internal bleeding because I couldn't afford to lose my job. I coordinated 500 guests while trying not to bleed through my dress. I smiled and made small talk while my body was screaming, all because you decided I was something you could break for fun. Marcus was crying now, ugly, desperate sobs that shook his whole body. Please, please, I'm begging you. Tell Voss to let me go. I'll do anything. I'll confess. I'll go to actual prison, just not here. Not forever. Why? Lena's voice was genuinely curious. This place is comfortable. You have food, medical care, recreation. It's probably nicer than most prisons. Because I can't leave. The words exploded out of him. Because every day I wake up knowing I'm trapped, knowing I'll never be free again, knowing I'll die here. That's torture. Good. Lena stood, walked to the window, looked out at the forest that was both beautiful and utterly isolating. Now you know how it feels. To be trapped, to be powerless, to know that no one is coming to save you. She turned back to face him. The difference is, I didn't deserve what happened to me. You deserve every second of this. Marcus lunged then, not to attack, but to grab her arms, to beg. Please, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Just tell him to let me go. I'll never hurt anyone again. I swear. The door burst open. Adrian was there instantly, his hand on Marcus's shoulder, yanking him back with controlled violence. Touch her again, and you'll spend the next month in medical isolation. Marcus stumbled back, nearly fell. Adrian positioned himself between them, his body language radiating threat. I'm fine, Lena said quietly. He wasn't trying to hurt me. He was begging. Adrian didn't move. Are you finished here? Lena looked at Marcus Hendricks, reduced to tears and desperation, stripped of all the power and privilege that had made him dangerous. She felt nothing but cold satisfaction and a strange, settling sense of closure. Yes, she said. I'm finished. Adrian escorted her out, his hand light on her lower back, protective without being possessive. Dr. Chen was waiting in the corridor. Are you all right, Ms. Hayes? Perfect. Lena looked back at the closed door. He'll stay here? Forever? Unless extraordinary circumstances arise, yes. Dr. Chen's expression was professional, but not unsympathetic. He'll receive therapy, medical care, opportunities for education and self-improvement, but he'll never leave these walls. And if he tries to escape? The facility is designed to make that impossible. But if somehow he succeeded? Dr. Chen glanced at Adrian. There are protocols. The way she said it made clear exactly what those protocols entailed. They walked back through the corridors in silence. Lena was aware of Adrian beside her, his presence solid and reassuring, aware of the weight of what she'd just done, what she'd just endorsed by coming here, by looking Marcus Hendricks in the eye and telling him he deserved his cage. She should feel guilty, should feel like she'd crossed some moral line that couldn't be uncrossed, but all she felt was free. In the SUV heading back to Manhattan, Adrian finally spoke. How do you feel? Lighter, Lena admitted, like I've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. No regrets? None. She turned to look at him. Should I have regrets? That's not for me to decide. Adrian's gaze was steady. Some people need to see their abusers punished to move forward. Some people need to forgive and forget. There's no right way to heal. What about you? Lena asked. The 17 other people in that facility. Do you have regrets about them? Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the forest rolling past outside. No. Every person there destroyed lives. They would have continued destroying lives if someone hadn't stopped them. I don't regret stopping them. Even though what you're doing is illegal? Especially because it's illegal. Adrian's voice hardened. The law protects power, Lena. It protects money and connections and the kind of privilege that lets people like Marcus Hendricks assault women and walk away laughing. Someone has to protect the people the law abandons. So you appointed yourself protector. I appointed myself willing to do what others won't. Adrian looked at her directly. I have the resources, the connections, the ruthlessness to actually change things, to actually stop predators instead of just slapping their wrists and hoping they'll reform. Why wouldn't I use that? Lena absorbed this. The others, the 17 people already there, did they all have someone like me? Someone they hurt who wanted revenge? Some did, some didn't. Adrian's expression was unreadable. Some of them were people I learned about through business dealings, patterns of behavior that couldn't be ignored. Some were referred by others who knew what I was willing to do. The facility has become something of an open secret among certain circles, people who've been failed by the legal system and are willing to pursue alternative justice. How many people know about it? Maybe 24, carefully selected, people I trust absolutely. Adrian paused. You're one of them now. The weight of that settled over Lena. She was part of this now, part of Adrian's shadow network of justice outside the law, complicit in kidnapping, false imprisonment, and everything the facility represented. I don't know what to do with that, she admitted quietly. You don't have to do anything with it. Just live your life, take care of your mother, go back to work if you want, or pursue something different. The facility exists whether you think about it or not. But I will think about it. Lena turned to face him fully. I'll know it's there. I'll know there are 18 people locked away because you decided they deserved it. And I'll know I'm one of the reasons. Does that bother you? Lena searched herself for horror, for guilt, for the moral revulsion she thought she should feel. But she kept coming back to Marcus Hendricks's face in that warehouse, to his laughter, to the casual cruelty in his voice when he'd promised to destroy her if she fought back. No, she said finally. It doesn't bother me. It should, but it doesn't. Adrian's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Then you're stronger than you think. Or more damaged. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Adrian's hand moved to cover hers where it rested on the seat between them. Strength often comes from surviving damage, from learning that sometimes the only way to fight monsters is to become something they fear more. His touch was warm, solid, and completely devoid of the possessive aggression Marcus Hendricks had shown. This was different. A question rather than a demand. An offer rather than a theft. Lena turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through Adrian's. Is that what you are? A monster they fear? Yes. No hesitation. But I'm a monster who protects people who deserve protection. That has to count for something. They rode the rest of the way in comfortable silence, hands intertwined while the forest gave way to suburbs and then to the familiar chaos of Manhattan. When they reached Lena's building, Adrian walked her to her door, despite her protests that she was fine. I know you're fine, he said, but I'm walking you up anyway. At her door, Lena hesitated. Do you want to come in? Adrian's gaze sharpened. Do you want me to come in? I don't know what I want. Lena's honesty surprised even her. I know I should probably take time to process everything, to figure out my feelings without you in the room confusing them, but I don't want you to leave. Then I'll stay. Adrian followed her inside, taking in the renovated space with satisfaction. How's your mother settling into her new place? She loves it, keeps crying every time she looks at the accessibility modifications. Lena moved to the kitchen, needing something to do with her hands. Can I make you coffee? Tea? I think there's whiskey somewhere if you... Lena! Adrian's voice stopped her mid-movement. You're spiraling. I'm not... She stopped, realized he was right. Okay, maybe I am. Talk to me. What's going on in your head? Lena leaned against the counter, choosing her words carefully. I just watched a man beg for his freedom. I told him he deserved to be locked away forever. And I felt good about it. That bothers you. Shouldn't it? Lena's voice cracked slightly. Shouldn't I feel guilty? Shouldn't I be horrified by what I've become? Adrian moved closer, stopped a few feet away. What have you become? Someone who enjoys other people's suffering. No. Adrian's voice was firm. You're someone who found satisfaction in seeing justice served. That's completely different. Is it? Yes. He closed the remaining distance between them. Marcus Hendricks didn't suffer because you enjoyed his pain. He suffered because he hurt you and needed to be stopped. You feeling satisfaction in that doesn't make you a monster. It makes you human. Lena looked up at him, this man who'd rewritten her entire reality in 2 weeks. You terrify me. I know. But I'm not afraid of you. I know that too. Adrian's hand came up slowly, cupping her cheek. You're the first person in a very long time who's looked at what I really am and didn't flinch. Maybe I'm broken. Maybe you're finally seeing clearly. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. The world isn't kind, Lena. It's not fair. People with power use it to destroy people without power, and the systems we're supposed to trust to protect us are rigged in favor of the destroyers. You know that now. Really know it. And instead of curling up and accepting it, you're standing here having used that same power to fight back. With your help. I was the weapon. You pulled the trigger. Adrian's eyes were intense, searching hers. Own that. Own your choice to fight back. Own your satisfaction in winning. There's no shame in it. Lena's breath caught. And what happens now? That's up to you. Adrian's hand dropped, giving her space. I told you before, this doesn't come with obligations. You don't owe me anything. Not gratitude, not affection, not your presence in my life beyond what you choose to give. What if I want to give you more than I should? Then we figure out what that looks like. Adrian's voice softened. But not tonight. Not when you're still processing everything. Take your time, Lena. I'm not going anywhere. He moved toward the door and Lena felt panic flare in her chest. Adrian, wait. He turned back. Stay, she said quietly. Not for anything. Just stay. I don't want to be alone right now. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. All right. They ended up on the couch, a careful distance between them, talking about everything except the facility and Marcus Hendricks. Adrian told her about growing up in foster care, about building his first business from nothing, about learning that power was the only thing that mattered in a world designed to crush people like him. Lena told him about her mother's diagnosis, about dropping out of college to work full-time, about the 1,000 small humiliations of being poor in a city that worshipped wealth. Somewhere around midnight, Lena fell asleep with her head on Adrian's shoulder. She woke briefly to him carrying her to her bedroom, settling her gently on the bed, pulling a blanket over her. You're leaving, she murmured, still half asleep. I'll be on the couch if you need me. Adrian's voice was soft. Sleep, Lena. She did, feeling safer than she had in years, knowing that Adrian Voss, the most dangerous man in Manhattan, was standing guard in her living room. Part 3. Lưu ý mẫn đậm. Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liên mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện và hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần, duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc, kể theo ngôi thứ ba, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyện. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show more, Conchin, ôn thải. When morning light filtered through the curtains, Lena found Adrian exactly where he'd said he'd be, stretched out on her couch, still dressed, one arm behind his head. He looked different in sleep, the hard edges of his face softened, the constant vigilance temporarily set aside. She stood in the doorway watching him, processing the surreal reality that Adrian Voss was sleeping on her couch. This man who commanded boardrooms and dismantled enemies with equal efficiency had spent the night protecting her from nightmares that never came. His eyes opened, instantly alert. No grogginess, no disorientation, just immediate awareness. Morning, he said, sitting up. How did you sleep? Better than I have in weeks. Lena moved into the kitchen, started coffee. You didn't have to stay all night. I wanted to. Adrian stood, rolled his shoulders to work out the stiffness. I should go. You need space, and I have meetings. Wait. Lena turned to face him. Before you go, I need to ask you something. Adrian went still, reading the seriousness in her tone. All right. The facility. The 18 people there. Is that all of it, or is there more? For a long moment, Adrian said nothing. Then he moved to the window, looked out over the city waking up below them. There's more, he admitted quietly. The facility is just one piece. I have networks throughout the city, people who report to me, people I've helped who owe me favors, people who understand that sometimes justice requires working outside the system. He turned back to face her. I've destroyed careers, bankrupted companies that exploited workers, made sure certain politicians lost elections. I've rewritten reality for dozens of people who thought they were untouchable. His voice was steady, unflinching. The facility is just the most visible piece because it's where I put people who need to be permanently removed. The rest of it is subtler, quieter. You're describing a shadow government. I'm describing effective power. Adrian moved closer. The official structures, law, politics, business, they're all theater. Performative justice that serves the people at the top. Real power happens in the spaces between, in the connections people don't see, in the leverage that never makes it to court. Lena absorbed this, trying to reconcile the man who'd held her so gently last night with the one describing a network of calculated control. And you run all of it. I run my piece of it. There are others like me, people who've built similar systems. We don't always agree, don't always cooperate, but we understand each other. Adrian's expression was unreadable. Does this change how you see me? I don't know yet. Lena poured coffee with hands that were perfectly steady. I'm still trying to understand what I've gotten myself into. You haven't gotten yourself into anything. Adrian accepted the coffee she handed him. You were hurt. I helped. That doesn't obligate you to my world. Except I've already seen it. I know about the facility. I know what you're capable of. Lena met his eyes. That makes me complicit whether I want to be or not. Only if you choose to be. Adrian set down his cup. You can walk away right now. Keep the apartment. Keep your mother's treatment. Keep everything I've given you. Go back to your life and pretend you never saw behind the curtain. I won't stop you. Would you, though? Lena challenged. Let me walk away knowing everything I know? Yes. No hesitation. Because despite what you might think, I'm not a monster who silences people for knowing too much. I'm selective about who I trust. But once I've decided to trust someone, I trust them completely. Why trust me? Adrian moved closer, close enough that Lena could feel the heat radiating from him. Because when I found you bleeding in that storage room, you could have lied, could have protected yourself by staying silent, but you told me the truth. You named your attacker knowing it could make everything worse. That takes courage I respect. His hand came up, traced her jawline with infinite gentleness. And because when I told you what I was planning, when I showed you exactly how dark I was willing to go, you didn't flinch, you didn't judge. You just asked if Marcus Hendricks would be safe in his cage. That told me everything I needed to know about who you are. Lena's breath caught. And who am I? Someone who understands that survival sometimes requires becoming something you never thought you'd be. Adrian's thumb brushed her lower lip. Someone who's stronger than she knows. Someone who could stand beside me instead of behind me. The implication hung between them like a physical presence. Is that what you want? Lena asked quietly. For me to stand beside you? I want you to choose what you want. Adrian's hand dropped. Without pressure, without obligation. I want you to wake up one morning and decide, consciously, deliberately, whether you want to be part of this world or walk away from it, and I'll respect whichever choice you make. When do I have to decide? Whenever you're ready. Adrian moved toward the door. Take your time. Figure out who you are now that you're not just surviving. Then decide if that person wants anything to do with me. He paused at the threshold. Your mother's next treatment is scheduled for Thursday. I'll be out of the country for the next week handling business in Singapore. Marcus will drive you anywhere you need to go, and the secure phone works internationally if you need to reach me. Where in Singapore? Acquiring a competitor who thought they could undercut my supply chains. Adrian's smile was sharp. They're learning that some people shouldn't be crossed. After he left, Lena stood in her renovated apartment, processing everything. The coffee grew cold in her hands as she stared out the window at Manhattan, spreading below her like a glittering web of opportunity and danger. Her phone buzzed. Her regular phone, not the secure one. A text from an unknown number. Ms. Hayes, this is Samuel Chen from Voss Industries. Mr. Voss asked me to reach out regarding your employment status. Your position as Senior Event Coordinator remains available if you wish to return, with a promotion to director level and corresponding salary increase. Alternatively, if you'd prefer a different role within the company or wish to pursue other opportunities, Mr. Voss has authorized a recommendation package that would open doors throughout the city. Please let me know your preference at your convenience. Lena read the message 3 times. Adrian was giving her an exit ramp. A way to maintain financial stability while distancing herself from him professionally if she wanted. Or a way to step deeper into his world. She spent the next 3 days in a strange limbo. Her mother's treatment continued to show remarkable progress. The experimental protocols were working better than anyone had dared hope. Catherine was gaining weight, her color improving. her energy returning. "They're talking about remission," Catherine told her during one visit, her eyes bright with tears. "Not cured, not yet, but controlled. Manageable. I might have years, Lena, real years." Lena held her mother's hand, grateful beyond words, and tried not to think about the price tag attached to those years. Tried not to calculate how much she owed Adrian Voss in ways that couldn't be measured in money. On the fourth day, Lena called Samuel Chen and told him she'd be returning to work the following Monday as director of special events. When he asked if she wanted to schedule a meeting with Mr. Voss to discuss her new role, she said no. "Tell him I'll see him when he gets back from Singapore," she said, "and tell him thank you." "I'll pass along the message," Samuel replied, and Lena could hear the approval in his voice. The following week passed in a blur of activity. Lena threw herself into work, learning her new responsibilities, meeting with clients who wanted Voss Industries to coordinate their events. She was good at it, better than good. She understood the details that mattered, anticipated problems before they materialized, transformed vague concepts into flawless execution. Her new office was on the 47th floor of the Voss building in Midtown, with a view that stretched to the East River. She arrived early, stayed late, and tried not to think about Adrian halfway across the world, dismantling competitors with the same cold efficiency he'd used to dismantle Marcus Hendricks. On Friday evening, a week and a half after Adrian had left, Lena was reviewing proposals for an upcoming pharmaceutical conference when her desk phone rang. "Ms. Hayes, there's a delivery for you at reception," the security guard said. "I'm not expecting anything. It's marked personal, for Mr. Voss." Lena's heart jumped. "I'll be right down." The package was small, elegantly wrapped in dark paper. Inside was a velvet box containing a platinum bracelet set with a single black diamond. No note, no explanation, just the bracelet and a card with Adrian's initials embossed in silver. Lena held it up to the light, watched the diamond catch the fluorescent glow of the office building. It was beautiful and austere and probably cost more than she used to make in a year. Her secure phone buzzed. "Do you like it?" Adrian's voice came through clear despite the distance. "It's beautiful," Lena said. "Also excessive. I wanted you to have something that reminded you of your strength." Adrian's tone was warmer than she'd ever heard it. "Black diamonds are formed under extreme pressure. They're harder than regular diamonds. Unbreakable. Like you." Lena's throat tightened. "When are you coming back?" "Tomorrow. My flight lands at 6 in the evening." A pause. "Have dinner with me. Not as your employer. Not as someone you're obligated to. Just as someone who wants to see you." "Adrian, think about it," he interrupted gently. "I'll text you the details. If you come, you come. If you don't, I'll understand." The line went dead before Lena could respond. She sat alone in her office, the bracelet cool against her wrist, and tried to untangle the knot of feelings Adrian Voss had created in her chest. Fear, gratitude, attraction, recognition, they were all mixed together until she couldn't separate them. That night, lying in bed in her renovated apartment, Lena called her mother. "How are you feeling about Adrian?" Catherine asked, cutting straight to the heart of it, as mothers do. "I don't know, confused, grateful, terrified." "Of him?" "Of what being with him would mean." Lena stared at the ceiling. "He's not a good man, Mom. He does terrible things to people. He runs a private prison in the mountains. He manipulates and controls and destroys anyone who crosses him." "And he saved your life," Catherine said quietly. "He's saving mine. He gave you justice when the law failed you. Those things matter too." "Do they outweigh the rest?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Only you can decide that." Catherine's voice was gentle. "But I'll tell you what I see. I see a man who looked at you and decided you were worth protecting. Not because you could give him something, not because he wanted to control you, but because he saw value in you that the world had overlooked. That's rare. It's also possessive. Maybe. Or maybe it's what protection looks like when it comes from someone powerful enough to actually deliver it." Catherine paused. "You don't have to love him, Lena. You don't have to be with him. But you should at least be honest about what you feel instead of what you think you should feel." After they hung up, Lena pulled out the secure phone and scrolled through the messages. Updates on the facility, confirmations that Marcus Hendricks was adjusting to his new reality, brief check-ins from Adrian asking if she needed anything. She typed a response before she could second-guess herself. "I'll be there for dinner," The reply came instantly. I'm glad. The restaurant Adrian chose was small, intimate, and so exclusive that Lena had never even heard of it. No sign outside, just a discreet door and a brownstone in the West Village. When she gave her name to the host, he smiled and led her to a private room in the back. Adrian was already there, standing by the window, dressed in a dark suit that made him look like every fantasy of dangerous elegance Lena had never allowed herself to acknowledge. When he turned and saw her, something in his expression shifted, softened in a way she'd never seen before. You came, he said simply. I said I would. Lena moved into the room, acutely aware of how intimate the space was. One table, candlelight, wine already breathing. You look beautiful. Adrian pulled out her chair. How was your first week as director? Overwhelming, exciting. I closed 3 major contracts. Lena settled into professional territory, needing the familiar ground. Samuel says you've been getting reports. I have. You're exceeding expectations. Adrian sat across from her, his dark eyes never leaving her face. I knew you would. Because you're good at reading people. Because I'm good at recognizing value when I see it. Adrian poured wine, a Bordeaux that probably cost more than Lena's monthly rent used to be. And because I've been watching you work for 8 months, I know what you're capable of. Why didn't you promote me before? Lena asked. Before all this happened. If you saw my potential, why wait? Adrian was quiet for a moment, considering. Because I try not to interfere with people's careers unless they ask for help. I prefer to let competence speak for itself. But after what happened, after I saw you bleeding and terrified and still trying to hold everything together, I decided waiting was pointless. He leaned forward slightly. You'd already proven yourself 1,000 times over. You just needed someone to acknowledge it. The food arrived, perfectly prepared, beautifully plated, and Lena barely tasted it. She was too focused on Adrian, on the way he moved and spoke, on the controlled power in every gesture. Tell me about Singapore, she said. Adrian's smile turned sharp. The acquisition went smoothly. They thought they could leverage political connections to block the takeover. They were wrong. What did you do? Reminded certain officials that their Swiss bank accounts weren't as secret as they thought. Adrian sipped his wine. Amazing how cooperative people become when you hold their financial crimes over their heads. You blackmailed government officials. I provided incentive for them to make the right decision. Adrian's tone suggested he saw no moral difference. The company I acquired was dumping toxic waste in residential areas. Children were getting sick. The government knew and did nothing because the company's owner had the right connections. Now I own the company, the dumping has stopped, and those officials understand that some things can't be bought. Lena studied him. Do you ever do anything that's just business, that doesn't involve saving people or punishing villains? Sometimes, but where's the fun in that? Adrian's expression was wry. I have enough money to last several lifetimes. What's the point of accumulating more unless I can use it to change things that need changing? Most billionaires buy yachts and trophy wives. I'm not most billionaires. Adrian set down his glass. I grew up in foster care, Lena. Bounced between homes where I was a paycheck, not a person. I learned early that the world doesn't protect children who have no one. It devours them. So when I finally clawed my way to power, I decided to be the protection I never had. His voice roughened slightly. The facility exists because I needed it to exist. Because I kept seeing predators walk free, and I couldn't stomach it anymore. Because I have the resources to actually do something about it, and doing nothing felt like complicity. You're a vigilante, Lena said quietly. I'm whatever I need to be to make sure people who can't protect themselves don't get destroyed by people who can. Adrian reached across the table, covered her hand with his. Including you. Lena looked down at their joined hands. His was warm, solid, scarred along the knuckles in ways that suggested he hadn't always had people to fight his battles for him. I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to figure out if what I feel for you is real or just trauma bonding, she admitted. Trying to separate gratitude from attraction from this weird sense that you're the only person who actually sees me. And what have you concluded? That I don't care. But Lena looked up, met his eyes. Real trauma bonding, gratitude, it's all tangled together, and trying to separate it is pointless. What matters is that when I'm around you, I feel safe and terrified and alive all at once, and I don't want that to stop. Adrian's grip on her hand tightened. Lena, let me finish. She took a breath. I know what you are. I've seen what you're capable of. And I'm choosing it anyway, choosing you. Not because I'm confused or grateful or broken, but because I want to. For a long moment, Adrian said nothing. Then he stood, moved around the table, and pulled her to her feet. Say it again, he commanded quietly. I choose you. Adrian's mouth came down on hers, and the world narrowed to just sensation. He kissed her like he did everything else, with complete focus and devastating precision. His hands framed her face, holding her exactly where he wanted her, and Lena felt herself surrender to something she'd been fighting since the moment he'd found her in that storage room. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I need you to understand what you're choosing, he said roughly. This isn't a normal relationship. I have enemies. I have obligations. There will be times when you can't know what I'm doing because it's safer that way. Times when you'll have to trust me without explanation. I know. And there will be darkness. More than you've seen already. The facility is just one piece. There are things I've done, things I'll have to do, that you might not be able to live with. Then we'll figure it out when we get there. Lena pulled back enough to look at him. I'm not asking for perfection, Adrian. I'm asking for honesty. For you to trust me the way you've asked me to trust you. I do trust you. Adrian's thumb traced her cheekbone. More than I've trusted anyone in years. That's what scares me. Why? Because trust is vulnerability. And vulnerability is how people get destroyed. His voice dropped. I've spent 20 years building walls, making sure no one could hurt me. And you walked through all of them like they weren't even there. Lena's heart clenched. I won't hurt you. You could. Adrian's honesty was stark. You're the only person who could, and that terrifies me more than anything I've ever faced. They stood there in the candlelight, two people who'd found each other in darkness and decided to stop fighting the pull between them. Take me home, Lena said quietly. Your home or mine? Yours. I want to see where you live when you're not being Manhattan's most feared power broker. Adrian's penthouse was exactly what Lena expected, and nothing like it. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than luxury cars, art that belonged in museums, but there were also books everywhere, comfortable chairs positioned for reading, a kitchen that showed signs of actual use. It was a space designed for living, not just impressing visitors. This is beautiful, Lena said, moving to the windows. Adrian came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. It's empty. Has been for years. His breath was warm against her neck. I bought it because it was a good investment, decorated it because that's what you do with penthouses. But I've never thought of it as home. What would make it home? You. Adrian turned her in his arms. You standing here. You making coffee in my kitchen. You filling the space with life instead of just expensive furniture. Lena's breath caught. That's a lot of weight to put on one person. I know. And if it's too much, tell me now. I'll take you home and we'll figure out something slower. Something that doesn't feel like I'm trying to consume you. Lena searched his face, saw the vulnerability he was trying to hide beneath his usual control. I don't want slower. I've spent my whole life being careful, being safe, making responsible choices. And where did it get me? Bleeding in a warehouse, terrified of losing everything. She pulled his face down to hers. You made me feel powerful, Adrian. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have control. Like I matter. I'm not giving that up because it's moving too fast. Adrian kissed her again, and this time there was nothing gentle about it. This was hunger, barely controlled, and Lena met it with equal intensity. They made it to his bedroom without breaking apart, shedding clothes between kisses, and when Adrian laid her down on sheets that smelled like cedar and winter nights, Lena felt something fundamental shift in her chest. This wasn't just physical, this was claiming and being claimed. This was two people who'd survived their own kinds of hell deciding they were stronger together than apart. Afterward, lying tangled in Adrian's arms while Manhattan glittered below them, Lena traced the scars on his ribs. Tell me about these. Foster care. One of my placements had a stepfather who liked to use his fists. Adrian's voice was distant. I was 12, fought back eventually, put him in the hospital. That's when I learned that violence, properly applied, could protect you. Is that when you decided to become what you are? That's when I decided I'd never be powerless again. Adrian's arms tightened around her. Every choice I've made since then has been about building power, about making sure I could protect myself and anyone I chose to protect. Like the 17 people in the facility. 18 now. Adrian pressed a kiss to her temple. And yes, like them. Like you. Like anyone who needs protection from people the law won't touch. Lena absorbed this, understanding something fundamental about the man holding her. You're not a vigilante. You're a protector who learned that sometimes protection requires violence. Is there a difference? Yes. Vigilantes want revenge. You want safety. Lena looked up at him. There's a difference. Adrian's expression softened. How do you do that? Do what? See the best in me when I keep showing you the worst. Because the worst parts of you are the parts that saved me. Lena kissed him gently. I can't condemn the darkness that gave me light. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and for the first time in weeks, neither of them had nightmares. Morning came with golden light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting Adrian's bedroom in shades of amber and honey. Lena woke to find him already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with an intensity that should have unnerved her but didn't. How long have you been staring at me? She murmured, sleep still heavy in her voice. Not long enough. Adrian traced the curve of her shoulder with one finger. I keep expecting to wake up and find this was a dream, that you'll have come to your senses and left. I'm still here. I can see that. His hand moved to cup her face. Lena, I need you to understand something. What we did last night, what you agreed to, it changes everything. I know. Do you? Adrian's expression was serious. You're not just in my life now, you're in my world. And my world has rules, expectations, dangers you haven't seen yet. Lena sat up, pulling the sheet with her. Then show me. Stop protecting me from the truth and show me what I've actually signed up for. Adrian studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, get dressed. There's something I need to deal with today, and you should see how it works. An hour later, they were in Adrian's car. Not the SUV with Marcus driving, but a sleek sedan that Adrian piloted himself through Manhattan traffic with the same controlled precision he applied to everything else. He'd made several calls during the drive, his voice dropping into that tone of absolute command that made people scramble to obey. They pulled up to a nondescript office building in the financial district. Adrian led her through a private entrance, past security that nodded respectfully, and into an elevator that required both a key card and a fingerprint to operate. Where are we going? Lena asked as they descended. Down, not up. Sub-basement level 3, one of my private meeting rooms. Adrian's jaw was tight. There's a situation that needs handling. A client of mine, a real estate developer, discovered that one of his executives has been embezzling funds and using the company to launder money for a trafficking operation. Lena's stomach dropped. Trafficking as in people. Women and children, mostly, brought in through his development projects under the guise of construction workers. Adrian's voice was ice. The developer came to me instead of the police because he knows the executive has connections. Judges, prosecutors, officials who've been taking bribes for years. Going through legal channels would mean everything gets buried. The elevator doors opened onto a corridor that looked like it belonged in a high-security facility. Reinforced doors. Cameras everywhere. The hum of serious ventilation systems. So he came to you, Lena said quietly. He came to me. Adrian led her to the door marked only with a number. The executive is inside. I'm going to give him a choice. Cooperate. Provide every detail about the operation, every name, every location, or face consequences he won't survive. And if he refuses to cooperate? Adrian's smile was terrible. Then I make him wish he had. He opened the door to reveal a sparse room. Concrete walls, a metal table, 2 chairs. And sitting in one of those chairs, handcuffed and sweating, was a man in his 50s wearing an expensive suit that had seen better days. The man looked up when they entered, and Lena saw fear flash across his face when he recognized Adrian. "Mr. Voss," the man said, his voice shaking, "this is a misunderstanding. Whatever Richard told you, Richard told me you've been using his construction projects to smuggle people into the country, that you've been selling them to various enterprises throughout the Northeast, that you've made approximately $40 million in the last 3 years doing it." Adrian's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. "He showed me the financial records. Very thorough documentation." The executive's face went gray. "I want a lawyer." "You're not under arrest, Thomas. This isn't a legal proceeding." Adrian sat down across from him, utterly relaxed. "This is a negotiation. I need information. You're going to provide it. The only question is whether you do it voluntarily or whether I have to encourage you." Thomas's eyes darted to Lena, standing by the door. "Who is she?" "Someone learning what I do when people step out of line." Adrian didn't look away from Thomas. "Don't worry about her, worry about yourself. You have 60 seconds to start talking or things get very unpleasant." "You can't do this. You can't just—" 45 seconds. Thomas lurched forward in his chair, desperation pouring off him. Okay, I'll talk. Just, what do you want to know?" Adrian pulled out a tablet, set it on the table between them. "Everything. Names of everyone involved, locations of current operations, financial accounts, routes you use to move people. Every detail you have, you're going to give me." "And Thomas? If I find out you've lied about anything, if even one detail is false, I will make you regret ever being born." For the next 2 hours, Lena watched Adrian systematically dismantle a human trafficking operation through nothing more than questions and the implicit threat of violence. Thomas talked and talked, his voice breaking periodically, tears streaming down his face as he confessed to horrors that made Lena's stomach turn. Adrian never raised his voice, never touched Thomas, never did anything that would constitute assault or torture. He just asked questions with that terrible calm patience, and Thomas answered every single one. When it was done, Adrian stood, pocketed the tablet. "Thank you for your cooperation. You've been very helpful." Thomas sagged in relief. "So I can go? You'll let me—" "No." Adrian's voice was flat. "You're not going anywhere. What you've done, the lives you've destroyed, there's no redemption from that. You're going to the facility, permanent containment, and every penny you made from trafficking is going to a fund that helps survivors rebuild their lives." "You can't!" Thomas screamed, lunging against his restraints. "I cooperated! You said—" "I said things would be unpleasant if you didn't cooperate. I never said cooperation would earn your freedom." Adrian moved to the door, his hand on Lena's lower back. "Enjoy your new home, Thomas. I'm told the mountain air is lovely this time of year." Security entered as they left. Silent, efficient men who would transport Thomas to the same facility that held Marcus Hendricks. In the elevator, Lena finally found her voice. "Patient 19. "Yes." Adrian pressed the button for ground level. "He'll spend the rest of his life knowing exactly what he did and having to live with it. That's justice." "How did you find him?" "Richard, the developer, brought it to my attention 3 days ago. I had my people investigate, confirm the details, gather evidence. Once I knew it was real, I brought Thomas in for questioning." Adrian looked at her. "Are you all right?" Lena thought about what she'd just witnessed. The casual efficiency with which Adrian had extracted a confession. The cold certainty with which he'd condemned a man to permanent imprisonment. The way he'd never once raised his voice or lost control. "I should be horrified," she said quietly. "But you're not." "No." But Lena met his eyes. "Because that man was trafficking people, selling human beings, and you stopped him. Not just arrested him and hoped the system worked. You actually stopped him, made sure he can never do it again." "The system would have failed," Adrian said. "Thomas had too many connections, too much money. He'd have walked away with a slap on the wrist and gone right back to it. This way, the operation is dismantled. The survivors get restitution, and he's permanently neutralized." They emerged into daylight, and Lena blinked at the normalcy of it. People walking past, grabbing coffee, living their lives, completely unaware that 2 floors beneath their feet, justice had been served in ways the law never could. "Is this what your life is like?" Lena asked as Adrian drove them back uptown. Finding monsters and locking them away? Part of it. I also run a multinational corporation, invest in emerging technologies, and occasionally attend charity galas. Adrian's mouth quirked. The monster hunting is just a side project. A side project that includes a private prison and a shadow network throughout the city. When you say it like that, it sounds excessive. It is excessive. Lena reached over, laced her fingers through his. It's also necessary, and I'm beginning to understand why you do it. Adrian glanced at her, something warm flickering in his expression. And you're still here. I'm still here. They spent the rest of the day at Adrian's office, him working through the backlog of business that had accumulated during his Singapore trip, Lena reviewing contracts for upcoming events. She watched him move through his corporate persona with the same controlled efficiency he'd shown in that interrogation room, and understood that Adrian Voss contained multitudes. Businessman, protector, predator, all of them real, all of them him. Late afternoon, Adrian's personal line rang. He answered, listened, and his expression went very still. When? He asked sharply. Another pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and looked at Lena. There's a problem at the facility. I need to go up there immediately. What kind of problem? Marcus Hendricks tried to escape. Adrian was already grabbing his jacket. He didn't get far, but he injured 2 guards in the process. I need to handle this personally. I'm coming with you. Adrian paused. Lena, I'm coming, she repeated firmly. If this is my world now, I need to see all of it, including when things go wrong. For a moment she thought he'd argue, but then he nodded. All right, but you do exactly as I say. Understood? The helicopter ride to the facility took 90 minutes, the landscape below transforming from urban sprawl to dense forest. Adrian spent most of the flight on calls, coordinating responses, ensuring the facility remained secure. When they landed, Doctor, Sarah Chen was waiting, her professional composure slightly frayed. He's in medical isolation, she reported as they walked into the main building. The guards sustained minor injuries, nothing serious. But Mr. Voss, he had help. Someone on the inside provided him with a key card and information about guard rotations. Adrian's expression went glacial. Who? We're still determining that, but it had to be staff. No one else has access to those systems. They moved through the facility, and Lena saw it properly for the first time. The comfortable common areas where patients could read or watch television. The private suites that looked more like hotel rooms than cells. The therapy rooms, the medical wing, the outdoor courtyards enclosed by walls disguised as natural rock formations. It was everything Adrian had described, a prison that didn't look like one, but a prison nonetheless. Medical isolation was in the basement level, behind reinforced doors that required multiple security clearances. Inside, Marcus Hendricks sat on a bed in a room that was far less comfortable than his usual suite. His face was bruised, his hands bandaged. When he saw Adrian, hatred twisted his features. Come to gloat? Marcus spat. I came to understand how you got a keycard and guard schedules. Adrian's voice was deadly calm. Who helped you? No one. I figured it out myself. You're lying. Adrian moved closer to the glass partition separating them. And we both know it. So let's skip the part where you pretend to be clever and get to the part where you tell me which staff member I need to remove. Remove? Marcus laughed bitterly. You mean lock up, add to your collection of people you've decided deserve permanent imprisonment. If they helped you, yes. They knew what you'd done. They knew why you were here. And they helped you anyway. Adrian's eyes were cold. That makes them complicit in every future crime you might have committed. You're insane, Marcus said, but his voice shook. You're a monster playing hero. Someday someone's going to stop you, and I hope I'm alive to see it. Keep hoping. You'll be here long enough to see a great many things. Adrian turned to Dr. Chen. Restrict his privileges until we identify his accomplice. No recreation, no library access, no communal meals. And put him on suicide watch. I want eyes on him 24/7. That's torture, Marcus shouted. You can't. I can do whatever I deem necessary to maintain security. Adrian's voice cut through the outburst like a blade. You tried to escape. You hurt people. You proved you're not ready for standard protocols. So now you get the consequences. He walked out without another word, Lena following. In the corridor, Adrian pulled out his phone and made a call. I want full background checks on every staff member hired in the last 6 months. Financial records, communication logs, everything. Someone here is compromised, and I want to know who by morning. He paused, listening. I don't care what it costs. Do it. They moved to Dr. Chen's office, where she pulled up security footage from the attempted escape. Lena watched as Marcus slipped out of his suite using a cloned key card, moved through corridors he shouldn't have known about, reached an exterior door that should have been alarmed but wasn't. He'd made it maybe 200 yards into the forest before security tackled him. He had detailed information, Adrian said, studying the footage. Guard positions, camera blind spots, the one exit that leads to a road. Someone gave him a map. I'll review all staff communications, Doctor, Chen promised. If someone's been in contact with him, check family members of all patients, Adrian interrupted. Someone might be trying to free their loved one by helping another patient create a distraction. Lena listened to them strategize, watched Adrian's mind work through the problem with the same precision he applied to business acquisitions. This was what he did, saw patterns, identified weaknesses, closed them before they could be exploited. By midnight, they had their answer. A junior security guard whose sister had been committed to the facility 6 months earlier for running a pill mill that had killed 3 people. The guard had been feeding Marcus information, hoping he'd create enough chaos that she could slip out during the confusion. Bring them both in, Adrian said, his voice like ice. I want to talk to them. The guard was a young man, maybe 25, who broke down crying the moment Adrian entered the room. I just wanted my sister back, he sobbed. She made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve to be locked up forever. She doesn't deserve this. Your sister distributed opioids that killed 3 people, Adrian said quietly. One of them was a teenager, 15 years old. Took what he thought was a painkiller and died in his bedroom while his mother was downstairs making dinner. Your sister knew the pills were contaminated, and she sold them anyway because the profit margin was higher. Babish, the guard's face crumpled. She didn't know they'd kill anyone. She knew. Adrian's voice was implacable. The coroner's report was clear. The pills were 80% fentanyl. No one takes that accidentally. Your sister was selling death and she knew it. That's why she's here. And that's why you're here too now, Adrian continued. You helped a violent predator try to escape. You endangered everyone in this facility. You betrayed your position and your responsibility. Congratulations, you've earned a suite next to your sister's. The guard's eyes went wide. No, you can't. I have a family. You had a choice, Adrian interrupted. You could have filed a formal appeal through proper channels. You could have come to me directly and argued for your sister's case. Instead, you chose to endanger innocent people. That choice has consequences. Lena watched as security escorted the sobbing guard away to become patient 20. Watched Adrian make the decision without hesitation, without visible emotion, with the same cold certainty he applied to everything. In the car on the way back to the helicopter pad, Lena finally spoke. You really don't feel anything when you do this, do you? When you condemn people to permanent imprisonment. Adrian was quiet for a moment. I feel plenty. I feel satisfaction that another dangerous person is contained. I feel relief that potential victims are safe. I feel the weight of every decision I make. He looked at her. But I don't feel guilt. Is that what you're asking? I don't know what I'm asking. Lena stared out at the dark forest. I'm trying to understand how you live with this, how you make these choices and then just move on. Because someone has to make them, Adrian said. Because the alternative is letting people like Marcus Hendricks and that guard's sister continue destroying lives. I can carry the weight of these decisions, Lena. I've been carrying it for years. The question is whether you can carry it with me. They flew back to Manhattan in silence, the city lights spreading below them like a constellation of choices and consequences. When they landed on the rooftop helipad of Adrian's building, Lena still hadn't found an answer to his question. In the penthouse, Adrian poured them both whiskey. Expensive, smooth, probably older than Lena. They stood by the windows, watching the city that never slept, and Lena thought about everything she'd seen in the last 24 hours. 20 people now, she said quietly. 20 people locked away because you decided they deserved it. Yes. How many more? However many it takes. Adrian swirled his whiskey. There's no finish line with this, Lena. No point where I can say the world is safe enough, the monsters are all caught. There will always be another predator, another person who thinks power means they can destroy others without consequence. And you'll keep hunting them. I'll keep protecting people from them. Yes. He looked at her. Does that terrify you? Lena thought about Marcus Hendricks begging in his cage, about Thomas the trafficker sobbing as he confessed, about the guard who'd betrayed his position for family loyalty, about the 17 others she hadn't met but knew were there, contained, controlled, condemned by Adrian's judgment. It should, she admitted. Everything about this should send me running. The illegality of it, the moral complexity, the sheer scope of what you've built. But it doesn't. No. Lena set down her glass, turned to face him fully. Because I keep coming back to the same truth. You found me bleeding and terrified, and you didn't just help me. You made sure the person who hurt me could never hurt anyone again. You gave me justice when the system failed me. You gave my mother a chance to survive when insurance companies were content to let her die. You stopped a trafficking operation that the law would have ignored. She moved closer to him. You're not a good man, Adrian, but you're a necessary one, and I'd rather stand beside someone doing dark things for the right reasons than someone doing nothing at all. Adrian set down his own glass, pulled her into his arms. I need you to be sure, because once you're truly in this, once you're part of my world beyond just knowing about it, there's no clean exit. You'll carry these secrets forever. You'll be complicit in everything I do. I'm already complicit, Lena said. I was complicit the moment I told you Marcus Hendricks' name. I'm not walking away now. Even knowing it will get darker, that what you've seen is just the surface? Show me the depths, Lena challenged. Stop protecting me from the worst of it. If I'm going to be part of this, I need to understand all of it. Adrian studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, but not tonight. Tonight, I just want to hold you and pretend the world is simpler than we both know it is. They went to bed wrapped around each other, and Lena fell asleep thinking about cages and justice and the strange comfort of being protected by someone dangerous enough to actually deliver on that promise. She woke to her phone ringing, her regular phone, not the secure one. The screen showed her mother's number, and panic spiked through her chest. Mom? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, sweetheart. Catherine's voice was jubilant. The opposite of wrong. The doctors just gave me the results from this week's scans. The tumors are shrinking, significantly. They're talking about remission being possible. Real, actual remission. Lena's throat closed. Mom, I know we can't count on anything, that cancer is unpredictable. But Lena, for the first time in 2 years, they're using the word hope. That's everything. After they hung up, Lena lay in Adrian's arms and cried, great gasping sobs of relief and joy and overwhelming gratitude. He held her through it, asking no questions, just providing solid, steady presence. My mother might survive, Lena said when she could speak again. Because of you. Because you decided she was worth saving. She was always worth saving, Adrian said quietly. The system just didn't agree. So we worked around the system. Lena pulled back to look at him. How many other people have you saved like this? Given medical treatment to, supported, helped? I don't keep count. Guess, Adrian considered. Hundreds, maybe. Medical bills paid, legal fees covered, housing secured. It's not altruism. I choose people who are valuable, who contribute something worth preserving. Your mother raised an exceptional daughter while fighting cancer and working 3 jobs. That's valuable. You sound like you're describing investments. I am. Adrian's expression was unapologetic. I invest in people I believe will make the world better. Your mother, you, others who've been crushed by systems designed to fail them. It's not charity, it's strategic allocation of resources. You're impossible, Lena said, but she was smiling. I'm effective. Adrian kissed her forehead. And I'm yours, however you want me. I want all of you, Lena said. The businessman and the protector and the predator. I want the man who saves lives and the man who destroys them. All of it. Then you have it. Adrian's voice was fierce. All of me. Without reservation. They made love again as dawn broke over Manhattan, and Lena understood that she'd crossed a threshold she could never uncross. She was Adrian Voss's partner now, in his world, in his war, in whatever darkness lay ahead, and she'd never felt more alive. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm that felt both surreal and inevitable. Lena moved through her days directing high-profile events for Voss Industries, her reputation growing as the woman who could make impossible demands look effortless. She coordinated a product launch for a tech giant, a political fundraiser that brought together rivals who hadn't spoken in years, a charity gala that raised $12 million in a single evening. And at night, she returned to Adrian's penthouse, because her apartment had stopped feeling like home the moment she'd spent her first night in his arms. Catherine's health continued to improve in ways that seemed almost miraculous. The experimental treatments were working beyond anyone's projections. She was gaining strength, talking about plans for the future, looking at her daughter with eyes that held hope instead of resignation. "He's good for you," Catherine said one afternoon over lunch at a cafe near her new apartment. "Adrian, I can see it in your face. You're different." "Different how?" Lena asked, though she already knew. "Settled, like you finally stopped running from something and started running toward it." Catherine reached across the table, squeezed her hand. "You're in love with him." Lena didn't deny it, couldn't. "Yes." "Does he know?" "I think so. We haven't said it yet. It's too new, too intense. Saying it feels like it would make everything too real." "Sweetheart, it's already real." Catherine's smile was knowing. "You've moved in with him. You're part of his world. Saying the words won't change what already exists." That evening, Lena stood in Adrian's home office while he finished a conference call with executives in Tokyo. She watched him command the conversation in fluent Japanese, watched the way his mind worked through complex negotiations like a grandmaster playing chess. When he hung up, he found her watching him with an expression that made him go very still. "What is it?" he asked. "I love you," Lena said simply. "I've been trying not to say it because it felt too soon, too fast, too everything. But my mother's right. It's already real. The words don't change anything except making me feel more honest." Adrian crossed the room in 3 strides, framed her face with his hands. "I've loved you since I found you in that storage room trying to hide how broken you were. Since I saw you bleeding and terrified and still trying to hold everything together, I looked at you and thought, this woman is stronger than she knows. And I decided right then that you were worth burning the world for." He kissed her with a tenderness that contrasted sharply with the violence he was capable of. "You're everything I never thought I'd find. Everything I never thought I deserved." "You deserve more than you think," Lena said against his mouth. "Maybe, but I'm keeping you anyway." They made love in his office, urgent and desperate, and afterward Adrian held her while the city glittered below them. "Marry me," he said into her hair. Lena pulled back to look at him. "What?" "Marry me. Not because I'm trying to possess you or lock you down. Because I want everyone to know you're mine and I'm yours. Because I want legal protection for you if anything happens to me. Because I want to wake up every morning for the rest of my life knowing you chose me." "Adrian, think about it," he interrupted gently. "I'm not asking for an answer right now. Just think about what it would mean. What we could build together." Lena thought about it for 3 days, weighing everything she knew about Adrian against everything she felt for him. She thought about the facility in the mountains and the 20 people imprisoned there, about the shadow network he'd built throughout the city, about the darkness that lived in him and the protection he offered in return. She thought about Marcus Hendricks rotting in his cage, about her mother's improving health, about the way Adrian looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. On the 4th day, she found him in his study reviewing acquisition proposals and said simply, "Yes." Adrian looked up, and the hope in his eyes nearly undid her. "Yes," he repeated. "Yes, I'll marry you. Not because you saved me, or because I'm grateful, or because I don't know better. Because I love you. Because you're the most dangerous and the most necessary person I've ever met. Because standing beside you feels like finally finding where I belong." Adrian pulled her into his lap, buried his face in her neck, and Lena felt him shake slightly, with relief or emotion or something he'd never let anyone else see. "We do this properly," he said when he could speak again. "I want your mother's blessing. I want you to have the wedding you deserve. I want everything to be perfect." "I don't need perfect. I just need you." "You're getting both anyway." Catherine cried when they told her, happy tears that spoke of relief and joy and the knowledge that her daughter would be protected long after she was gone. She hugged Adrian fiercely, whispered something in his ear that made his expression soften in ways Lena rarely saw. Later, when Lena asked what her mother had said, Adrian just smiled. She told me that if I ever hurt you, she'd come back from the grave to destroy me. I told her I believed her. The engagement ring Adrian gave her was understated, a single flawless diamond set in platinum, elegant without being ostentatious. It matched the black diamond bracelet perfectly, and Lena understood that he'd been planning this longer than she'd realized. Planning a wedding while running a multinational corporation and a shadow justice network should have been impossible, but Adrian approached it with the same meticulous precision he applied to everything else. He hired the best planners, secured a venue overlooking the Hudson, arranged for designers and caterers and musicians who normally worked years in advance. "You're terrifying when you plan things," Lena observed, watching him coordinate details with military efficiency. "I want it to be perfect. You deserve perfect. I deserve you. Everything else is just decoration." 2 months before the wedding, Senator Hendricks requested a meeting. Adrian took the call in his office, his expression unreadable as he listened to whatever the senator was saying. When he hung up, he looked at Lena with something dark in his eyes. "He wants to see his son. Says he's heard Marcus is being well cared for, but he needs to verify it personally." Lena's stomach dropped. "What did you tell him?" "That I'd consider it. But Lena, if he visits the facility, if he sees what we've built there, it's a risk. He might decide to go public despite the leverage I have over him. Might decide his political career is less important than freeing his son." "What do you want to do?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "I want to know what you think. Marcus Hendricks hurt you. His father enabled that hurt by raising him to believe he was untouchable. Do you want the senator to see what his son has become?" Lena thought about it, turned the question over in her mind. "Let him visit. Let him see Marcus in that cage and know it's permanent. Let him understand that his son is paying for every woman he ever hurt, and there's nothing a senator's power can do about it." "You're sure?" "I'm sure. Maybe seeing the consequences will teach him something about accountability. Probably not, but maybe." The visit was arranged for the following week. Adrian and Lena flew to the facility together, and Lena felt her stomach tighten as they approached the mountains that held so many secrets. Senator Hendricks arrived by private car, flanked by security that Adrian's people politely but firmly disarmed. The senator was in his 60s, silver-haired and distinguished, with the kind of face that inspired trust on television. In person, Lena could see the calculation behind his practiced warmth. "Mr. Voss," the senator said, extending his hand, "thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Senator," Adrian shook his hand with professional courtesy, "this is my fiancée, Lena Hayes." The senator's eyes flickered to Lena, and she saw the moment he recognized her name, saw understanding dawn, followed by something that might have been shame. "Ms. Hayes, I owe you an apology. What my son did to you was unforgivable." "Yes, it was," Lena said evenly. "And yet you tried to make sure he'd never face consequences for it. You used your position to pressure investigators, to discourage prosecution, to protect him from accountability." The senator's jaw tightened. "He's my son. What would you have me do?" "Accept that some things are more important than family loyalty, like justice, like protecting other potential victims from your son's violence." Lena's voice was steel. "But you chose him over them. So Adrian chose differently." Adrian led them into the facility, through the security checkpoints, down to the wing where Marcus was housed. The senator walked in silence, taking in the comfortable surroundings, the medical equipment, the recreational facilities. "This is a prison," he said finally. "This is a consequence," Adrian corrected. "Your son hurt people, Senator. Multiple women, over multiple years. The legal system failed them all because men like you made sure it would. So I built something the law couldn't touch. Something that actually stops predators instead of just slapping their wrists." They reached Marcus's suite. Dr. Chen was waiting, professional and unreadable. "Patient 18 is inside," she said. "He's been informed of the visit. I'll monitor from the observation room. If there are any issues, security will intervene immediately." The senator looked at Adrian. "I want to speak to my son alone." "No." Adrian's voice was flat. "You speak to him through glass, supervised, for 30 minutes. Those are the terms." For a moment, Lena thought the senator would refuse, but he must have seen something in Adrian's expression that made him reconsider because he nodded stiffly. Marcus looked different than when Lena had last seen him. Thinner, older. The arrogant confidence that had defined him was gone, replaced by something hollow and desperate. When he saw his father, he lunged at the glass partition. "Dad! Dad, you have to get me out of here, please. I've been cooperative. I've done everything they asked, but they won't let me leave. You have to do something. Call the FBI. Call the governor. Call someone who can—" "Marcus!" The senator's voice was heavy. "I can't." Marcus went very still. "What do you mean you can't? You're a United States senator. You have power. You have connections. You can—" "Mr. Voss has evidence that would end my career. Financial crimes, corruption charges, things that would put me in federal prison for the rest of my life." The senator's hands were pressed against the glass. "If I try to free you, if I make this public, he'll destroy everything I've built, everything our family has built." "So you're just going to leave me here?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Leave me in this cage forever because your career is more important than your son?" "You put yourself in this cage, Marcus. When you assaulted that woman, when you hurt all those other women over the years, and I covered it up, paid them off, made sure you never faced consequences. I enabled this. I'm as guilty as you are, and now we're both paying the price." The senator turned to look at Adrian, who'd been watching the exchange with cold satisfaction. "How long will you keep him here?" "Until he dies," Adrian said simply. "There's no parole from this facility, no time off for good behavior. He's here permanently." "That's a death sentence." "No, it's a life sentence. He'll be comfortable, well-fed, given medical care. He'll just never be free again. That's justice." The senator looked back at his son, crumpled against the glass, sobbing. "I can't save you, Marcus. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for failing you all those years ago, for teaching you that power meant you could hurt people without consequences, for not stopping you when I should have." "Dad, please." "Goodbye, son." The senator walked out without looking back, and Lena saw tears tracking down his face. In the corridor, he turned to Adrian. "You've won. You have my son. You have leverage over me. You have everything. What do you want from me now?" "I want you to be better," Adrian said quietly. "I want you to use your position to actually protect people instead of predators. I want you to spend the rest of your career making sure other women don't suffer what Ms. Hayes suffered. Can you do that?" The senator looked at Lena, really looked at her for the first time. "I can try." "Then try. Because if I hear about you covering up another assault, protecting another violent criminal because they have the right connections, I won't just expose your financial crimes. I'll make sure everyone knows you sacrificed your integrity to protect a rapist. That will be your legacy." They left the senator standing alone in that corridor, and Lena felt something settle in her chest. Not quite forgiveness. She'd never forgive what Marcus Hendricks had done to her. But closure. The knowledge that both father and son understood the consequences of their choices. In the helicopter flying back to Manhattan, Adrian pulled her close. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Free," Lena said. "For the first time since that warehouse, I feel completely free of him. He can't hurt me anymore. His father can't protect him anymore. It's over." "It's over," Adrian agreed. "And our life together is beginning." The wedding took place on a crisp autumn evening with Manhattan's skyline painting the backdrop in gold and amber light. Catherine walked Lena down the aisle, radiant in remission, tears of joy streaming down her face. Adrian waited at the altar in a black tuxedo that made him look like every dangerous fantasy Lena had ever allowed herself to have. The ceremony was small, just 50 guests, carefully selected. Business associates who'd become genuine friends. A handful of the people Adrian had helped over the years, invited to witness that even the most dangerous men could find redemption in love. Dr. Sarah Chen and her sister Dr. Rebecca Chen, representing the network that had saved both Lena and her mother. No one from Adrian's foster care past attended. That part of his life was locked away, the same way his prisoners were locked away. But Marcus, his driver and bodyguard, stood as best man, tears in his eyes as he watched his employer find something worth more than all the power and wealth he'd accumulated. When the officiant asked if they took each other as partners for life, Adrian's voice was steady and absolutely certain. "I do. Without hesitation. Without reservation. Forever." Lena's response was just as firm. I do. In darkness and light, in whatever comes. The kiss that sealed their vows was tender and fierce, a promise of protection and partnership that went deeper than any legal contract. At the reception, Catherine gave a toast that left half the room in tears. My daughter has survived things that would break most people. She's fought for everything she has, her career, my health, her own safety, and she did it all with grace and strength that humbled me every single day. When Adrian found her at her lowest point, he didn't see someone broken. He saw someone worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth loving with the kind of intensity that rewrites reality. I'm grateful beyond words that she found someone strong enough to stand beside her, someone willing to burn the world down if that's what keeping her safe requires. Catherine looked directly at Adrian. You've given me back my daughter's smile. You've given me years I thought I'd lost. You've given our family a future we'd stopped believing in. Thank you for seeing what the rest of the world overlooked. Thank you for being exactly who she needed, exactly when she needed it. Adrian stood, raised his glass to Catherine. Thank you for raising someone extraordinary, for teaching her that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about putting yourself back together and choosing to keep fighting. Everything I love about Lena came from you. They danced under lights that turned the evening into something magical. Lena felt Adrian's arms around her, felt the solid reality of him, and thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. Do you ever regret it? She asked quietly, her head against his chest. The facility, the network, the choices you've made that most people would call criminal. No. Adrian's voice was certain. I regret that the world is broken enough to make it necessary, but I don't regret doing what I had to do to protect people, including you. 20 people locked away because of your judgment. 20 predators who can't hurt anyone else. 20 success stories that the legal system failed to deliver. Adrian pulled back enough to look at her. Do you regret saying yes to all of this? To me? Lena thought about it, really thought. About Marcus Hendricks in his mountain cage. About her mother dancing with old friends, celebrating life she'd been given back. About the women and children rescued from that trafficking operation because Adrian had acted when law enforcement wouldn't. No, she said finally, I regret that the world made you necessary, but I don't regret loving you. Don't regret choosing to stand beside you instead of judging you from a distance. Good. Adrian kissed her forehead, because you're stuck with me now, legally and every other way that matters. I can live with that. 3 months into their marriage, Lena discovered she was pregnant. She sat in the bathroom of their penthouse, staring at the positive test, trying to process what it meant. A child. Adrian's child. A life that would grow up knowing its father ran a private prison and dismantled predators for breakfast. When she told Adrian, he went very still. How do you feel about it? He asked carefully. Terrified. Excited. Completely overwhelmed. Lena took his hand, pressed it to her still flat stomach. This baby is going to grow up in a world where their father is either a hero or a villain, depending on who's telling the story. I don't know how to prepare them for that. We teach them the truth, Adrian said. That power can protect or destroy, and the choice matters. That some rules are worth breaking to save lives. That justice doesn't always look like what the law says it should. His hand moved to cup her face. We teach them to be strong enough to survive in a world that's often cruel and brutal, and we love them enough that they never doubt their worth. What if they judge you for what you do? Then they judge me, and I'll love them anyway. Adrian pulled her close. This baby is the best thing I could ever create, Lena. Better than my company, better than the facility, better than any amount of power or wealth. We'll figure it out together. Catherine was overjoyed at the news, immediately launching into plans for grandmotherhood with an energy that spoke to how far her recovery had come. You're going to be wonderful parents, she told them over dinner. Unconventional, maybe, but wonderful. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Lena continued working, coordinating events while her body changed, earning respect for refusing to let pregnancy slow her down. Adrian became obsessively protective, hiring additional security, making sure she had everything she could possibly need, attending every doctor's appointment with the same focused intensity he brought to business negotiations. 7 months in, something unexpected happened. Senator Hendricks introduced legislation targeting human trafficking, with provisions that closed loopholes his own connections had previously exploited. In his speech on the Senate floor, he spoke about personal failures and the importance of accountability. "I failed to protect people when I should have," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I prioritized loyalty to family over justice for victims. I used my position to shield someone who should have faced consequences. I can't undo those failures, but I can try to make sure other powerful people don't make the same mistakes." The legislation passed with bipartisan support. Adrian watched the coverage in his office, Lena beside him on the couch, her hand resting on her swollen belly. "He's trying," she said quietly. "He is." Adrian's expression was thoughtful. Maybe seeing his son permanently contained taught him something after all. Maybe losing everything made him realize what actually matters. "Do you think he'll ever forgive you for taking Marcus away?" "No, but I don't need his forgiveness. I need him to use his power responsibly. If this legislation saves even one person from trafficking, it was worth it." 2 weeks later, Lena went into labor 3 weeks early. The birth was fast and intense and absolutely terrifying. Adrian held her hand through every contraction, his control finally cracking as he watched her in pain he couldn't prevent or fix. When their daughter finally arrived, screaming her fury at the world, Adrian held her with such careful reverence that Lena's heart broke and healed simultaneously. "She's perfect," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Lena, she's absolutely perfect." They named her Catherine Sarah Voss, after her grandmother and the doctor who'd helped save Lena's life. She had Adrian's dark hair and Lena's eyes and a set of lungs that suggested she'd inherited her father's commanding presence. Catherine held her granddaughter and wept with joy. "She's going to change the world," she predicted, just like her parents did. Lena recovered from childbirth while learning to navigate motherhood and discovered that Adrian was an unexpectedly hands-on father. He changed diapers with the same efficiency he applied to hostile takeovers. He paced the penthouse at 3 in the morning, soothing a crying baby with the same patience he used to dismantle competitors. He spoke to their daughter in multiple languages, already planning her education, already imagining the woman she'd become. "You're going to spoil her," Lena observed, watching him rock Catherine Sarah to sleep. "Absolutely," Adrian agreed. "She's going to know from day one that she's valued, protected, loved beyond measure. No one will ever make her feel powerless. What if she grows up and decides what you do is wrong? What if she judges the facility, the network, all of it?" Adrian looked down at his sleeping daughter. "Then she'll have to decide for herself what justice means, what protection requires, what she's willing to sacrifice to keep people safe. And whatever she decides, I'll love her, even if she condemns everything I've built." 6 months after Catherine Sarah was born, the facility received its 21st resident, a corporate executive who'd been systematically poisoning a water supply to increase profit margins. The operation that brought her down had been coordinated by Lena, working from home while nursing their daughter. She'd identified the patterns, tracked the money, gathered the evidence. Adrian had made the arrest. "We make a good team," he told her afterward, finding her in the nursery watching their daughter sleep. "We do." Lena leaned into him. "Is this what our life is going to be? Raising our daughter while hunting predators?" "If you want it to be. Or you can step back. Focus on Catherine Sarah in your career and let me handle the darker work." Adrian's voice was gentle. "I never wanted to drag you into this, Lena. You can choose differently." "No." Lena turned to face him. "I choose this. I choose us. I choose building something better for our daughter, even if that means working in shadows the law won't touch. Because I want her to grow up in a world where predators face consequences, where the system actually protects people instead of power." "Then we'll build it together." Adrian kissed her softly. "And someday when she's old enough to understand, we'll tell her the truth about the facility, about the network, about everything we've done to make the world safer, and she'll decide for herself whether we were heroes or villains." "I think she'll understand," Lena said quietly, "because we'll raise her to see that the world isn't simple, that sometimes the right choice is the hard one, that protection requires strength most people aren't willing to develop." They stood together in the soft light of the nursery, watching their daughter sleep, and Lena thought about the journey that had brought them here, from bleeding in a storage room to standing beside the most dangerous man in Manhattan, from victim to protector. from powerless to powerful. A year later, Catherine, the original Catherine, Lena's mother, passed away peacefully in her sleep. The cancer had returned despite all the treatments, despite all of Adrian's resources, despite every hope they'd held on to. But she'd lived to see her daughter married, to meet her granddaughter, to know that Lena was safe and loved and protected by someone who would burn the world down before letting her be hurt again. At the funeral, Adrian held their daughter while Lena said goodbye to the woman who'd taught her to survive. "She was proud of you," Adrian said later, back in the penthouse. "She told me once that you were stronger than you knew, that you'd been carrying her through her illness when you should have been building your own life. She was grateful I gave her daughter a reason to stop just surviving and start living." "She was everything," Lena whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I know. And she knew you loved her. That matters more than anything else." Grief settled over Lena like a weight she'd carry forever, but she found comfort in her daughter's laughter, in Adrian's steady presence, in the life they'd built together. 2 years after their wedding, Lena stood at the window of Adrian's office, looking out over Manhattan while Catherine Sarah played with blocks at her feet. "How many now?" she asked quietly. Adrian looked up from his laptop. 27. 3 more this month. A politician who embezzled disaster relief funds, a doctor who performed unnecessary surgeries for profit, and a tech executive who deliberately designed addictive software targeting children. All contained, all neutralized, unable to hurt anyone else. Adrian stood, moved to join her at the window. "Are you having doubts?" Lena thought about it. About the 27 people locked away in the mountains. About the shadow network that had grown to include informants throughout the city. About the justice they delivered that the law couldn't or wouldn't. "No," she said finally. "No doubts, just awareness. We've built something extraordinary and terrifying, something that will outlive us. Someday Catherine Sarah will inherit all of this, the company, the wealth, the facility, the network, and she'll have to decide what to do with it. Then we raise her to make good choices, to understand power and responsibility, to see that some things are worth protecting even when the cost is high." Adrian wrapped his arms around her from behind. "We raise her to be stronger than we were, better than we were." Catherine Sarah looked up from her blocks, saw her parents framed against the Manhattan skyline, and laughed with pure joy. And in that moment, standing in the office of the most dangerous man in the city, holding the daughter they'd created from love born in darkness, Lena understood something fundamental. They weren't heroes. They weren't villains. They were protectors operating in the spaces where law and justice diverged. They were two people who'd found each other at their lowest points and decided to build something that mattered from the wreckage. They were survivors who'd become something more, and the world, however it might judge them, was safer because they existed. Years later, when Catherine Sarah was old enough to understand, they took her to the facility, showed her the mountain compound, introduced her to Dr. Chen, explained what her father had built and why. She was 15, sharp as a blade, with her mother's determination and her father's strategic mind. She walked through the corridors, asked questions about protocols and oversight, met several of the residents through glass partitions. At the end of the day, sitting in Dr. Chen's office, she looked at her parents with eyes that saw everything. "This is illegal," she said. "Yes," Adrian agreed. "And necessary," she continued. "Yes," Lena confirmed, "because the legal system fails people, because power protects itself, because someone has to actually stop predators instead of just hoping they'll reform." Catherine Sarah's voice was steady. "I've read about the people here, what they did, who they hurt. The system let them walk away, you didn't." "Are you horrified?" Adrian asked quietly. Catherine Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "I'm grateful, because without this, without what you built, without what you do, Marcus Hendricks would have destroyed Mom, would have hurt other women, would still be walking free, using his father's power as a shield. Instead, he's here, contained, unable to hurt anyone else." She looked at her mother. "You were the first person he protected this way, but you weren't the last. Every person in this facility is someone who could have hurt others, who would have hurt others if Dad hadn't stopped them." "It's still playing judge and jury," Lena said. "It's still taking the law into our own hands." "Because the law doesn't work," Catherine Sarah replied. "Not for people without power, Not for victims who can't afford lawyers or don't have connections or don't fit the right profile. The law is broken, so you built something that actually protects people. I don't see the problem. Adrian and Lena exchanged a glance, saw their daughter clearly for the first time, saw that she understood, saw that she'd inherited not just their resources but their willingness to use them for something that mattered. Someday this will be yours, Adrian said. The company, the wealth, all of it, including this facility, including the network. You'll have to decide what to do with it. I already know, Catherine Sarah said simply. I'll do what you did. Protect people who can't protect themselves. Stop predators the law won't touch. Build something that matters more than money or power. She stood, moved to the window overlooking the forest that hid so many secrets. I want to work here, during summers, during breaks from school. I want to learn how this operates, how to identify predators, how to build cases against them, how to do what you do, but better, smarter, more efficiently. Lena's throat tightened. You're 15. I'm old enough to understand that the world is cruel, and someone has to fight back. You taught me that, both of you. You showed me that survival means becoming strong enough to protect not just yourself, but others. I want to learn how. Adrian looked at his daughter, fierce and certain, exactly like her mother had been in that storage room, making the choice to fight back instead of surrender. All right, he said quietly, but you start with the basics, learning how the facility operates, understanding protocols, studying the legal frameworks we navigate around. This isn't a game, Catherine Sarah. This is serious work with real consequences. I know. That's why I want to learn it properly. She turned to face them. I want to be ready when it's my turn, ready to carry what you've built and make it better. They left the facility as a family, and Lena understood that they'd created something that would outlive them. A legacy of protection, however unconventional. A commitment to justice, however it was defined. The ending came not with a dramatic confrontation or a final revelation, but with a quiet evening in the penthouse. Adrian and Lena sat on their balcony overlooking Central Park while Catherine Sarah did homework inside. The city spread below them like a web of light and shadow, beautiful and brutal and endlessly complex. Do you ever regret it? Lena asked, echoing the question she'd asked on their wedding day. Any of it? Adrian was quiet for a long moment, considering. I regret that Marcus Hendricks hurt you. I regret that the system failed so completely that I had to build an alternative. I regret every moment you spent afraid or in pain. He took her hand, laced their fingers together. But I don't regret finding you. I don't regret protecting you. I don't regret building a life with you that's complicated and dark and absolutely real. You made me believe that all the violence and control and calculated cruelty I'm capable of could be used for something good, something worth protecting. We're not heroes, Lena said softly. No, but we're not villains either. We're people who saw a broken system and refused to accept it, who built something that actually protects the vulnerable instead of just pretending to. That has to count for something. Lena leaned into him, watched the city lights flicker and shift. 27 people locked away because we decided they deserved it. Dozens more we've helped. Hundreds of lives changed because we decided to act instead of just hoping someone else would. And a daughter who'll carry it forward when we're gone, who'll make it better than we did, who'll protect people we'll never meet. Adrian's voice was soft with pride. We built something that matters, Lena. However the world judges it, we know what we did was necessary. Inside, Catherine Sarah looked up from her homework, saw her parents silhouetted against the city skyline, and smiled. She understood now what they'd built, understood the weight they carried and the purpose that drove them. Someday she'd carry that weight herself. Someday she'd run the facility, manage the network, protect people the law abandoned. But for now, she was content to learn, to prepare, to become strong enough to stand where her parents stood and carry forward their legacy of protection. The story that began with Lena bleeding in a storage room ended here, with a family built from darkness and love, with justice served outside the law, with power used to protect instead of destroy. It wasn't a simple ending. It wasn't clean or morally uncomplicated or easily categorized as right or wrong. But it was real. And in a world that had tried to break them both, Adrian and Lena had built something unbreakable. They had found each other in the worst moment of Lena's life and transformed that horror into something fierce and protective and absolutely worth fighting for. They had survived. They had protected. They had loved without reservation or apology. And the world, however it might judge their methods, was better because they'd refused to accept injustice as inevitable. That was enough. That was everything.